Internal family systems therapy, which is also known as IFS, is the therapy that changed my life. And it is a practice of befriending the activated parts of ourselves, the aspects of ourselves that often we might like the least. So the parts of ourselves that can be hypervigilant or addicted or extreme in any way, or the belief systems and patterns that hold us back from what we really want. Oftentimes we want to just shut those parts of ourselves down, right? Oh, I hate that part of myself, or I don't want to be there again, or how did I end up in that situation again? It's about befriending those parts of ourselves and healing and accessing this relationship to these parts rather than making them bad or wrong, but starting to get into relationship with these aspects of ourselves. Because really, Jay, they're just little children inside.
You saying that and me hearing that just now has literally given me goosebumps because it's so profound. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like most of our self-help efforts or most of our self-work efforts as of now are all about never feeling that way again.
Exactly.
So it's like, how do I never, ever feel anxious ever again? How do I completely block out the inner critic? How do I never experience this ever again in my life?
You're nailing it. Pretty much what happens is as young children, we have these experiences of trauma with a big T or trauma with a small t. We all have them. It doesn't matter how big or small. We've all had them. Maybe you were bullied on the playground, or maybe you had extreme trauma, like an abuse or a parent. Experiences of feeling terror or unlovable or inadequate, not good enough. Those were such extreme feelings that we would do whatever it took to protect against them. Just like you said, I never want to feel that again. So what we did was we started to build up protection mechanisms. And those protection mechanisms could be like controlling, or they could be people pleasing or perfectionism, or in my case, control was a big one, or rage, or then addiction. And these protection mechanisms become these aspects of ourselves that really run the show. They're called protector parts. And so in IFS, the whole intention is to start to get to know these protector parts, soften to them, recognize them, and these protection mechanisms that we've been living with for as long as we can remember, to recognize them as young little children inside who need the care of our inner self, of our higher self. And that's what in IFS is called self, which is why the book is called Self-Help. And I can go on and on about the inner workings of self-help, which we'll do today. But really, my intention with this book, Jay, was to democratize and demystify and simplify this extraordinary therapy that my friend Dr. Richard Schwartz created. And I went on to be trained in the model, and after doing the therapy for a decade for myself with my own therapist and then getting trained in it, it was very clear to me that I was going to do what I do, which is translate and simplify. And that's what this is. This is a self-help practice based on the principles of IFS.
It's so counterintuitive to what I think we've been told for so long. And so it takes a second. But you said something at the start of the interview a few moments ago about how it actually changed your life. Mm-hmm. And what was it that took you and drew you to IFS? How did that come to be in your life? And where were you at in your life when this became something that was relevant for you?
It was a real accident. I didn't know that it was there. I was with the same therapist for about 7 or 8 years. And midway through my therapy, I actually remembered in a dream trauma from my childhood, extreme trauma, big T trauma. In that journey of undoing that trauma, she began practicing IFS with me. I didn't know that we were doing it. I just was doing the thing that she wanted me to do. And it was actually really hard for me to do at the time because she was wanting me to start to tap into these aspects of myself and start to get into relationship with the addict or the anxiety or the extreme patterns of rage or the controller, which were all protection mechanisms that had been blocking me from remembering that trauma. And I remember it was about 2020. I was at home, as we all were, and I'm watching this YouTube video with this man, Dr. Richard Schwartz. I just stumbled upon it. And I'm watching this video and I'm like, this guy's talking about this therapy he created. And as I'm hearing him talk about it, I'm realizing that's the thing I've been doing for all these years with my therapist. And it was so exciting to me. And it was just around the time that I was starting my own podcast. So I reached out to him, and he was one of the third people I had on the show because it was just my mission to uncover as much as I could about this therapy that was really healing me. And then Dick really encouraged me to go on and get the training. And so I was one of the last people to be able to do the facilitator training that isn't a therapist, that isn't a licensed therapist. So it was definitely divinely timed. And I think when you get trained in something, and you know this, when you do the training and you undergo what it would mean to be a facilitator of that work, it starts to get into your system in a way that it benefits you even more. I think we borrow the benefits as teachers. We start to experience the work in a different way. It becomes so integrated. And that accelerated my experience of IFS, which then made me realize, I can't just expect that everyone's going to be able to get to this therapy because they won't be able to afford it, or there's not enough therapists out there, or they won't even know that it's there. So I've got to make it easy and accessible for people to use. And particularly right now, people need resources and they need tools to access on the fly. And we need an inner sense of safety inside.
So where do people start?
To start, you have to just first recognize that there are parts of yourself that are activated. To just, if you've ever said something like, there's a part of me that gets really angry and rageful when my wife does X, or a part of me checks out when I'm around my parents, or a part of me is really defensive at work when I'm around authority figures. Those parts of yourself are not who you are. They're parts of who you are, and they're protection mechanisms. And so having this experience of being the witness without any judgment of these aspects of yourself that may actually be aspects of yourself that you've really judged and really hated for a long time, but being that non-judgmental witness of these parts of yourself and recognizing, how long has that part been around? And every time you're going to say, as long as I can remember, since I was a kid, since I was 5. And then asking yourself, okay, well, what is that part really trying to do here? It's trying to protect you. And so that's the first step, is to recognize that the aspects of ourselves that cause the most drama and most chaos in our life, or the most oftentimes hated aspects, are actually the parts of us that are working so hard to protect us. And, I've been sober now 20 years right now. And I can look back at the cocaine addict part at 25 years old and just look at her with so much love and so much compassion and just say, thank you for working so hard to keep down these impermissible feelings that I was not ready to face.
Without the ones like you working tirelessly to keep things running, everything would suddenly stop. No matter your industry, Grainger's here for you with professional-grade supplies. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
So it starts by spotting a pattern that you see repeated that you don't like about yourself.
A belief, maybe a belief, a pattern, a behavior that you find to be extreme in some way that's causing some issues in your life, or oftentimes the parts of ourselves. And I'll just give a bunch of examples. So for me, we've got the controller, we've got the anxiety, the addict. There was a part that I named called Knives Out. It was really like, if you mess with me, the knives are coming out. And she's a really unburdened part. Now that part is doing okay. Yeah. But for a long time, it was like, I could be the greatest person. But if you messed with me, it was just like this defensiveness was going to just come out in such an extreme way. And even parts of ourselves that might be praised. For example, for years, I was just sort of a workaholic. And people would be like, wow, Gabby, you write a book a year and you're doing so much. And you'd be praised for these aspects of yourself. But meanwhile, it was destroying me. And you've known me through that time. You've seen me through those sort of destructive eras of my life where I was pounding and grinding. I was running. I was protecting against deep feelings that I wasn't ready to face. And so these aspects might not necessarily be perceived as bad, but they're causing and creating chaos nonetheless. And the thing that's really important for me about this work is that it's very spiritual work. And as you know, all my work up to this point has been really grounded in spiritual beliefs and faith, and my own truth around my spiritual practice. But what's gorgeous about this is it's really marrying therapeutic processes with a spiritual experience. And I can get to that. That's what self is.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I mean, I was going to ask you that. You're saying a lot of these protection mechanisms, they ultimately bury the self.
They are blocking
They're
self.
blocking
That's
us from
right.
self, yeah.
Yes. Because there's this beautiful quote by an IFS practitioner, and I'll share it. It's that self is like the sun behind the clouds. And when the clouds dissipate, the sun begins to emerge naturally. So anyone watching has had experience, anyone listening or watching has had experiences of self. Those moments when you're just in complete flow, when you're playing pickleball with Lewis, when you're cooking with Roddy, when you're in self right now. You looked me in the eye before this show started. You asked me one of the most beautiful questions. I almost started crying before we began. That's your self energy. It's calm. It's courageous. It's curious. It's connected. It's clear. Creative, I think I said, and confident. It's these C qualities. Compassionate. And it's almost an oftentimes very childlike wonder. It's just, and the reason actually I think that you're such an excellent interviewer is because you interview with a lot of self. The curiosity, the connection, clarity. That's also what comes through. That's what people feel even healed in the presence of self. And so that self energy all of us have, but we blocked it. We blocked it with all these protectors. But the good news is it never left us.
Yeah, and that's what you're saying. We've all had these glimpses of our compassionate self, our creative self, our kind self.
Yes.
And you're so right that all of our triggers block that. Even, I was thinking about this, just how, trying to think of someone I spoke to the other day who you could tell there was this almost fight inside of them where their insecurity about something was unlocking their ego when in reality they wanted to follow their higher self and be compassionate.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we all go through.
Yeah.
I think the truth is, Gabby, that, and we can both speak to this, you've done this work for so long now in helping so many millions of people across the world. People are exhausted right now, and doing this work requires a lot of effort and energy and time and courage. How do people bring themselves to actually do this, to unlock the self, when it just feels like it's so far blocked and it's so far removed and we feel so far away from feeling that creative, compassionate, powerful self that we all have and that we all are?
Well, I think if someone's coming to this with that energy of, I don't have time for this, or this is too much, or I'd ask that person, well, how is it all working out for you this way? Because we think it's hard. We think that self-help practices are hard or spiritual practice is hard. But the truth is that not having that foundation is much more difficult. And not having that foundation in this critical time, this is a very critical time. If we don't have a faith of our own understanding, or a therapeutic or a spiritual or self-help practice of our own understanding, or a tool of accessing some kind of inner connection to inner wisdom, inspiration, intuition, inner guidance, if we don't have that right now, we're going to be like a fish out of water. We're going to be flailing around. We're going to feel really unstable, really uncertain, really anxious, and really scared. And I think that's most people right now. Anyone watching or listening to this interview is on the track of wanting more. So they've already begun the first step. They would not be following you if they weren't interested in seeking their ability to self-soothe, to self-correct, to feel a sense of safety inside. So they're already 90% of the way there because they're listening. But the practice that I've created, that I've outlined here, is taking this big body of work that does oftentimes feel like a lot, to go into therapy every single week, to sit down, to open up to some of those deepest, most vulnerable parts of ourselves. And so this is really a way to scratch the surface and to do it safely. Because I'm not going to those exiled parts. I'm not going to that little traumatized child. We're going to the day-to-day protection mechanisms.
Yeah.
And it's a 4-step practice. It's a simple 4-step practice.
So what do we do once we've identified this pattern?
Yep.
So whether it's anxiety, people-pleasing, avoidance, control, what do you then do once you've found this pattern that has been a protector, but ultimately is a blocker from self.
Yeah. So these patterns are the way that we check out. And so the practice in the book is called the 4-step check-in process. And it's checking in with the part. And so if you have enough space between that stimulus and the reaction, so let's say you are at work and your boss triggers you and you're like, okay, I got to get out of this office right now and I got to go into the bathroom and I got to check in with myself because otherwise I'm going to do something I'm going to regret. So you step away, or typically stepping away is very valuable, or maybe the next day you want to check in because it's still lingering. You get out of the instant of the trigger and then you choose to check in instead of check out. So it's focusing your attention inward is the first step. Just looking inside, just even closing your eyes and focusing your attention inside. The second step is curiosity. So that's where you start to just tease it out a little bit and you'll say, okay, where does that part of me live in my body? Where do I feel it? And you'll notice it's in my jaw, or it's in my stomach, or in my chest, or my shoulders, or wherever it lives. You'll ask a few more questions. Are there any thoughts or feelings or sensations attached with this belief or pattern? And then you'll hear, I'm not good enough, or, I can, or maybe you'll have an image. I see myself and I'm 5 years old and the bully on the playground is yelling at me, or whatever that storyline was. Or my dad just left, or whatever the experience, maybe you'll see the image or you'll hear words. So you just keep teasing it out, just noticing thoughts, feelings, sensations, what's happening inside. And once you have a little bit of connection, remember that's self, you're going to connect deeper with compassion, which is the third step. And you're going to ask the part, not yourself, you're asking the part of you, the activated part of you, what do you need? And Jay, you'll be blown away. The part will say, I need to dance. I need to rest. I need to play. Because what do these parts need? They need to be kids again. Yeah. They need to return to that natural role of being innocent. Or I need love. And then once you have that third step, the fourth step is very easy, and it's really checking for self. So you're going to check in for those C qualities. Do I feel calm? Do I feel more compassionate? Do I feel connected? Do I have some clarity? Do I feel a little courageous? Do I have creative energy buzzing inside of me? Oftentimes you'll very quickly feel calmer. You feel some courage. And clarity is a big one that comes through quickly too. And so those 4 steps, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And I've prescribed this. I've looked at my audiences and I've said, okay, listen, what about 1 minute a day, 4 steps is bothering you? And everyone's like, nothing, I can do that. And so that's it. 1 minute a day, 4 steps. Because the thing is, once you do this one time, then you can realize, oh wait, I can do this maybe in an hour from now. Or I can do it before I'm going to bed when I'm having anxiety. Or I can do it after that deep conversation with my partner that really activated me. I can keep coming back to this really simply without feeling like it's a burden. It can be as little or as much as you want. But I've always taught as a metaphysical teacher that the miracles that we experience in our life are the experiences when we change the way we experience something. Not that the things outside of us change, but that our experience of our experience changes.
Life doesn't wait, and neither should you. Aleve can help you deal with pain less throughout your day. Whether it's a long day on your feet, a demanding workout, or everyday aches and pains, you need relief that can keep up when pain persists. Aleve is here for you with longer-lasting body pain relief compared to leading OTC-branded pain relievers. With just one pill, Aleve lasts up to 12 hours. Don't let those aches hold you back from doing what's important to you. Use as directed.
And that's what this will offer.
We all want to feel better, to have more energy and more focus throughout the day. That's why I co-founded Junie, a sparkling adaptogenic drink made with powerful ingredients like ashwagandha and lion's mane. It's designed to boost your mood, support your focus, and give you natural energy, all without the crash. A new classic reimagined. We're so excited to officially launch our new lemonade iced tea flavor. When we created Junie, my goal was simple. I wanted to make drinks that help you feel balanced and energized without compromise. Our upgraded take on the classic Arnold Palmer is crisp, refreshing, and crafted with adaptogens to support energy, focus, and mood, all with zero sugar. Be among the first to try it. Available exclusively at drinkjunie.com, where you can use the code ONPURPOSE20 for 20% off your first order. Cheers to your daily mood boost. We all want to feel better, to have more energy and more focus throughout the day. That's why I co-founded Junie, a sparkling adaptogenic drink made with powerful ingredients like ashwagandha and lion's mane. It's designed to boost your mood, support your focus, and give you natural energy, all without the crash. Get your daily mood boost with Junie at Whole Foods Market, or head to drinkjunie.com to find a store near you. What I really appreciate about it is that we're going back to being guided from within.
Yes.
And I feel that's somewhere where we've lost in society, where it's constantly been what your parents thought, what your friends thought, what your family thinks, now what social media thinks. And we're so overexposed to everyone else's opinion. And it's so common for us to ask questions about what we should do with our life in the group chat. Mm-hmm. You know, trying to get someone else's opinion to give us the answer. Mm-hmm. And I think we've lost the ability to understand that all of the answers are right there within if we were simply to sit with ourselves. Your body will tell you, your heart will tell you, your mind will tell you, and this practice really allows you to do that again. So it's not like, here's a fix-it-all situation. It will tell you something different every time. When someone does it for the first time, how can they do it in a way that they have an experience where they get a taste that it's real? Because I think when we hear these things, and do you know what the truth is today? I've been thinking about this a lot, and you're the right person to ask this because you've shared so many great pieces of advice over the years. I feel everyone knows what they have to do, but we don't actually do it properly. Mm-hmm. And so we never have the qualitative experience that convinces us we should keep doing it. Whereas when you've had that qualitative experience, whether it's an amazing meditation, whether it's the 4-step practice, once you've had that qualitative experience and you've felt the impact, you'll do it again and again and again. But the first time, how can someone really lock in the first time they do this?
Self begets more self. So the first way to step in is to look at your life and ask yourself, is this what I want? Is this it? I think that those are really magic words. Is this it? Is this all I've got here? You know, I want more than this. Even just saying, I want to change. I want more. Everyone listening is in some way, shape, or form wanting some aspect of change. And that desire is there. And that desire wouldn't be planted in your heart if it wasn't ready to come forth, if it wasn't ready to be birthed. So I think that that's the responsibility that we have to give ourselves, is to ask ourselves, this is that beautiful Mary Oliver quote, if this is our one simple life, I'm botching it, but this is this one beautiful life that we have. And am I going to take it to the max? Am I going to live to the highest and the best? And that's one question, and that's one place to come to this. Or the other place is that there may be people listening that are hitting a massive bottom in their life. And for those folks, Jay, it's going to be a lot easier to pick up this book and start. A lot easier. Because there's that beautiful Rumi quote, the wound is the place where the light enters you.
I love that one.
When you are in that moment of hitting some kind of bottom, or you're having that addiction come to an end, or you're in the divorce, or you're having a crisis at work, or you've lost the job, or you've gotten the diagnosis, those are the moments when the light enters you. So the question you want to ask yourself is, am I willing to do whatever it takes to get to great? Am I willing to do whatever it takes to feel great? And that's the path I've been on. I want to get to great. I've lived through a lot of different difficult experiences, as all of us have, and I've just been on a pursuit of feeling great. There's this interesting thing that I heard in a 12-step meeting early in my recovery was, if you want what they have, do what they do. So sometimes that's just enough to be listening and be like, well, Jay and Roddy did that, or if you want what they have, do what they do. There's a reason that somebody is in, and when I say what they have, I don't mean the external things. I mean the inner peace. If you want what they have, do what they do. And the thing that happens that you said that was also quite interesting is that why this is a spiritual practice is because when you start to reflect inside and start to tend to these protection mechanisms, these burdened parts, they start to feel seen. Like what does a child need? A child needs to be seen, soothed, loved, cared, calm and compassionate energy. So it starts to feel like you have this internal parent inside. And you realize, as Dick Schwartz says, that you are the one you've been waiting for. That all of the external validation or love or connection or support, all that outside stuff that you've been seeking to find completion and safety is actually inside of you. And I know that's something that people always say in spiritual, you'll really experience that with this.
What's the balance, do you think, Abby, of how much external validation and how much self-validation we need? Like, does external validation play any part in our ability to self-validate? Or do you believe it's a full self-validation process and external validation should be irrelevant at some point?
I can really speak from my own experience. The more self I've accessed inside, the more self-connection I have to that inner parent, that inner wisdom, the less external validation I need. I don't need it. And I'm a human, so it's not like I know, honestly, Jay, I don't really think I need it. I don't feel like I'm grasping or looking or needing. And I think the other irony is that the more self that you have access to, the more self you attract. So the more calm, connected, compassionate energy you bring into your life. So you do get that love and that connection because you are always receiving back what you are vibrating out.
Yeah.
And so the more you access self, the more you become that point of attraction for more self in your life.
Yeah, no, I love that answer because I've been talking to a lot of friends about that recently, about this idea of if you have the power to self-validate and self-soothe and self-regulate and honor your hard work and intensity, then you won't crave it from others. And what I was explaining to someone was that anytime I've wanted someone to validate me externally, they can never fully satisfy my need for it because they haven't lived my life. And in the same way, I haven't lived theirs. So I can't validate them effectively either because I haven't been up with them on those sleepless nights. I haven't gone through the trauma that they've gone through. And so even if I'm to say, well done, you did great, that's amazing, it will still never fully satiate their desire for validation because, as you just quoted Dick Schwartz, that you're the one you've been waiting for. It's only when I sit with myself and I cry at the thought of everything I've been through and honor myself for every way I've showed up for myself, whether it's my body, my mind, my heart, my soul, that's the only time when I'll actually be satisfied.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that again and again. So I completely agree with you. The point isn't that I don't appreciate external validation. I do. The point isn't that I'm not inspired when I'm validated externally. I am. But the only type of validation that really, really like affects me deep in my heart and my gut is when it's coming from me.
That's right.
Because I have all the details. I have the record books. I have the files and the notes on every difficult moment I've been through, just as you do for yourself.
We are the ones we've been waiting for. I had the experience just yesterday, a really epic experience where my son is 6.5 years old now. And so we belong to this really sweet lake club in our community in the countryside. And it's like 1950s and there's these docks and grills and it's kind of like the dirtier your sweatpants are, the cooler you are there, and clay tennis courts. And it's just really idyllic. And my kid's at the age now where he can just like run around and do his thing. And he's a great swimmer and I'm not stressed out about what's going on. So I'm like, go do you, man. And I'm sitting on the dock by myself. My husband was out for a drive. I just played some tennis. I'm sitting on the dock. I've got this new book in my hand. I'm in my, my red bathing suit. I've got my iced coffee next to me. It's like it's dirty all over the dock, but I didn't care. And I was just sitting there on this like cozy chair and I'm looking out at the water and I had this incredible energy just pour through me. This energy that was just whoosh, just spirit. It was spirit coming through. I mean, that's the way I would just define this. And this just self energy, just so connected, so in the moment, so present. There wasn't anything else that I was thinking about or trying to get to or trying to do. And it was just this moment of, whoa, this is what we've been training for. It just flooded in. And that isn't a fleeting moment. That's how we can live our lives. We can live not all day, every day. We're going to be in self. We're going to get activated. We're going to get triggered. The best of us are going to get triggered. But it's the triggers become less, what once was years would be days or minutes or 5 seconds. And we start to access more of that presence and that taste of that energy, that self energy. You want more of it. And also, I think that there's this thing I always call spiritual proof. When you have an experience of something where you say, oh my God, I just did that 4-step thing and I actually feel a little bit calmer. And Gabby said, all I need is to be a little bit calmer. And then I've done the job. I've done this. If I even feel the slightest molecule of self, I've done the work. That experience of that molecule of self is something you crave. You want more of it. It's like going to the gym. You want more of it.
Yeah.
So to keep practicing it.
Yeah.
Are you the kind of person who knows things? Things like you can get a domain from Squarespace, not just a website? Well, now you are that person, because now you definitely know you can get a domain from Squarespace. Something like whisperingbloom.com for your silent retreat. Or whisperingboom.com for your shouting retreat. Whatever your dream, a Squarespace domain and website brings it to life, all in one place. Get yours before it's gone with offer code MAKEITREAL for 10% off your domain or website. Terms and conditions apply.
One of the ways people experience a protector or a trigger is self-judgment and self-criticism, or the inner critic. How do you even reconcile the fact that self-judgment is a protector in some way?
Self-judgment's a huge protector. Actually, I wrote a book called Judgment Detox.
Yeah, I remember.
I was a little bit ahead of myself there because it's very much what this work is about. It's judgment is a way of judging ourselves is definitely a protector, because if there is something big, too uncomfortable to access that's being activated, feelings of being inadequate, unlovable, we are going to do anything we can to numb that pain. So 1, we're going to judge others so we don't have to feel the pain inside. Or 2, we'll judge ourselves, start nitpicking and judging ourselves, because it's easier to judge and attack ourselves than it is to feel the pain. And what happens with this beautiful practice is that as you start to tend inward, you recognize that you don't have to re-experience the pain. You can just be present with what the protector needs in that moment. And in that moment, it can just soften. And it's these moment by moment unburdenings of the pain of that you've held on to for so long.
So what do we do with the self-critic through this 4-step practice?
Great question. So you'd notice yourself in that self-critic or that attack or judgment, and you would have, again, you have to have enough space between the attack and the response to it. And sometimes it might not happen until the next day when you have a little bit of a judgment hangover or whatever it is, but you notice it. You say, okay, I'm going to check in. And so you'd check in with the judgment, and you'd focus your attention towards that judgment inside. So instead of being in your head, you'd get into your internally. And I like to close my eyes with this. I could also suggest that people do this with journaling. So at the top of the page, you could say, I choose to check in with my judgment. And then the compassionate, the curious connection, that curiosity coming inside, you'd ask the judgment, what are you trying to tell me? What are you trying to reveal? Because the judgment will then speak. And this is really helpful. You asked earlier, what's a great way to start? Journaling is a great way to do this, because if you're just journaling with it, you'll let your pen flow and that stream of consciousness will start to come forward onto the page, and you'll be blown away what the part will start to say. Just journal with the part. So you ask it, what do you need? And then you'll just journal, and then it's going to, carry on with the 4 questions. So check in, curiosity, compassion, and what do you need? And then start to journal more. How do I feel now?
Yeah, it's almost starting to treat ourselves. You said this earlier, and it's resonating more as you explain the practice. This idea of treating those parts of yourself as small children.
Yes.
And it's like if a child was crying, the first thing you'd say is, hey, what's up? Like, what's going on? Like, how are you feeling? Like, what happened? Are you okay? Whereas when we see the parts of ourselves crying inside or kicking up a fuss, we're just like, go away.
Go away.
Go away. I don't want to talk to you.
This is an actual question I ask my audiences is, if a little child in your life was having a hard moment or saying, I'm really scared or I'm really activated, the first thing you would do is calm, connection. Your self-energy would rise to the occasion. Calm, connected, curious. What do you need? But the way that we speak to ourselves is insane. It's horrible. We just are so mean to ourselves. and so aggressive with ourselves and wanting to shut it down. That's exactly right.
Why do we find it easier to soothe others but not soothe ourselves?
Well, because we believe, or unconsciously, I don't think we know this, but we unconsciously believe that we need these protectors to stay alive. So I'll give an example. I had very severe codependent addiction before I was a drug addict. And in that codependent addiction, I literally had a belief that if I'm not in a relationship, I will die. It wasn't, I wouldn't say that out loud, but it felt like that. It felt like death.
You behaved like that.
It was literally like, oh my God, if I was clinging and fawning, and if that relationship doesn't work, I would find another one. And I was actually talking with a woman yesterday who identifies as a codependent and has a very serious addiction to this one partner that she's been trying to release. And she keeps going back and she keeps going back. And she's like, it's just such a drug. And I said, well, what does it feel like if you were to end it? And she's like, I literally feel like I would die. And that's the thing with these protectors, is that we don't realize it, but they actually are protecting us from feelings that we think and believe inside, unprocessed trauma feelings that we believe will take us down. We believe they will take us down. And it's only when we start to self-soothe and access a little bit of that self inside that we can start to realize, no, actually, there's some safety here. I feel like I can actually be a little bit more resilient than I thought, or it's not that terrifying to go there. I can go there and I can be okay on the other side. But we have to have that spiritual proof in order to actually have even any desire to keep going.
Yeah, I think that's that part where I'm like, the first time you do this, for anyone who's listening and watching, really give it your all, because you can experience spiritual proof early. And as soon as you have that, you just set, because you now know what you're working towards. Not that you want the same feeling or the same emotion, or be different, but you know the process works. And I think sometimes it's almost like everyone knows they need to work out and everyone knows they need to take supplements and vitamins. But when you don't do that properly and you don't do it consistently, you don't have the proof that it works.
Let's give them the proof right now.
Yeah,
let's give them the experience right now.
Because
one of the things I don't love about this sort of therapeutic book is that talking about it, it's like people are just and also protectors get up, like other protectors, like literally, like, you're gonna have to believe me, but they're like, this, I don't want to go there. And so that's why it took me years in therapy, and I wish I'd had this book, because I think it would have been a more gentle access to it. So let's stop talking about it. I'll give it to them. Okay. And you can do it for yourself. I think everyone listening, maybe you close your eyes while we do this if you want to. And for your own sake, Jay, just think of a protector that you might be aware of. And you don't have to say out loud what you're working with unless you want to later, okay? And everybody listening, check in right now with, at this point, maybe you're aware of a part of yourself that is a little activated at times, or maybe very activated at times. The parts that are controlling or addicted, or maybe the part that runs through the refrigerator or checks out with YouTube, or the aspects of yourself that you want to check in with, and choose one right now.
It's nap time.
What if your dreams could become reality?
The Sandman can make your dreams come true. This can't be happening. This is totally happening.
From the studio that brought you K-pop Demon Hunters,
We can save our family if we find the Sandman.
comes a brand new animated adventure beyond anything you could ever dream.
Jetpack, six-pack, fists of dynamite.
What a weird kid.
In Your Dreams, rated PG, only on Netflix November 14th.
And once you're aware of that part, if you're not driving, you can gently close your eyes and focus your attention inward and choose to check in with the part. And now noticing inside with a little curiosity, where does that part of you live in your body? Where do you feel it inside? And does it have a shape or a color? Or is there any words or thoughts or memories attached to it? And give it a breath. Take a deep breath in like Jay just did. Breathe in with it. And just be present with it and let it know that it's safe to let you know more. So any memories or feelings or sensations, and don't judge anything that comes forward, just let it come through. And now that you have a little bit of access and connection to this part, you can ask it one last time. Is there anything else that you want me to know? And now, with that access to the part, I want you to check in a little bit more closely and offer it a little bit of compassionate connection. Asking the part, what do you need? And just listen. Don't overthink it. Don't judge it. Just listen. And now take a deep breath in and maybe place your hand on your heart and your other hand on your belly and just breathing in. And just let that part know that you've listened, that you're here. And take another deep breath in. And now just check in and notice how you feel. Do you feel even the slightest bit more calm? Do you feel a little bit of compassion towards that part? Are you curious? Would you like to know a little bit more at some point? Are you willing to get to know more? Do you feel connected? Do you have more clarity about it? Any creative energy buzzing through you? Feel a little buzziness? Just notice those C qualities: courage, any confidence. Just take one last deep breath in. Just let it go. And then whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. See how you feel. I watched you go there. It was beautiful.
It was great. It was, what I really liked about it, the part that really helped me was being able to approach something head on, which we don't do.
Yeah.
And then to actually sit with it with compassion in a good way. So my normal reaction to it would be, God, why do I do this? Why am I doing that? God, it's so annoying. Oh, I know this came from something in my past. Or that's the kind of energy that it often has. And to not have that energy for that protector was new. Because the energy that I have for the protector is most likely negative or condescending or some sort of kind of derogatory kind of feeling. Whereas it was really pleasant to say, oh, like, you're not all that bad. Mm-hmm. You've been needed. You've performed a purpose. You've been useful, and it's not perfect, but I'm grateful.
Yeah.
That was quite new. I'd never done that before.
There's a lot of clarity there.
Yeah.
See, that's a lot of self, Jay.
Yeah.
That clarity.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're walking, for the listener who's walking out of this or experiencing this just for the first time, and they're like, oh, I learned something new. That's self. Did you feel a little bit more calm? Mm-hmm. Yeah, self. You felt some compassion towards self. So anyone that's listening, even the slightest, like I said, the molecule of calmness or compassion or connection, you've done it perfectly. This is perfect. And if you're like, I actually feel worse, that's fine too, because you tried. Right? You did that. You went through the journey. That doesn't. This is just the first baby step in. The experience, like I shared earlier, is about getting into relationship with the part, not pushing it away, shutting it down, blaming and shaming. It's getting into relationship with. And here's the cool part. The more you do this, the more you can actually speak for your parts rather than as your parts.
Yes. Wow. That's really powerful. So that's really good.
The more you practice this, the easier it is for you to speak for your parts rather than as your parts.
I mean, that's it, right?
I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I have a part that's she's doing okay. She's called Knives Out. She's been really at bay, and the person that she likes to bring the knives out to is my husband, poor Zach. So she loves to bring those knives out. But we've been so good. Like my husband and I do IFS therapy for couples therapy.
Yeah.
So like we're rocking. I mean, it's amazing that marriages can get that much better over time. And we have a language around it. And I said to him, something happened where he said something that was really triggering to me. It was like something where like I did something with my kid that he didn't like, and he was kind of shaming me, but not on purpose, but I felt shamed. Because when does Knives Out come out, Jay? When I feel shame, right? Like, I don't want to feel that shame. So instead of feeling that shame, I'm going to literally bring the knives out, go and become completely overtaken. If anyone that read my book saw me, they'd be like terrified and cry and run in the corner. And Knives Out comes out, and she's like cursing, and she's like, go F yourself, and like outraged. And later that night, Zach was just like, I don't know what to do with that part. It's like, what the hell was that? We've been so good. Why did you have to act out like that? And I said, I was triggered in the moment, and I was taken over by the part. And I want to speak for the part. There's that part, again, that when she feels shame, she goes into she checks out, become blended with the part. You literally could take on like a different physical form. Your face can change, your voice can change. And I just said, I'm really sorry for how I acted, and I want to take ownership that part gets really, and I'm not, saying, oh, it's just a part, so get over it. I'm saying that's that part that I'm still working with. I'm going to speak for the part. The part got really activated. She felt shame.
Yeah.
When she feels shame, she goes crazy. And so I'm going to keep working with her, and I'm sorry that she acted out.
Yeah.
But I'm speaking for her that rather than as her. As her would have been like, still in that rage, I'm protecting no matter what.
Yeah.
Fighting for the part.
Yeah.
And this is really cool in work environments. So if you've got coworkers that you work with or a boss that pisses you off, you can start speaking for the part. You can go to the boss and just say, hey, listen, depending on the environment, but you could, in your own way, say, hey, listen, I just want to let you know that when I get really flustered when I don't know the answers. I just wanted to let you know that a part of me gets really activated when I don't know all the answers. So if you see me acting weird in those moments, I just want to let you know, because I'm not trying to bullshit you, but I actually just get really flustered.
Yeah.
And just imagine living like that, or starting a relationship with somebody, and you have this language, and you're like, listen, a part of me is like a very anxious attachment style, and I just want you to know that like I might act a little nuts at times because there's a part of me that gets activated. If I was dating a guy early in a relationship and he said that to me, I'd be like, bro, let's take this further.
Yeah.
And if they can't, then that's not your partner, right?
Yeah.
But speaking for these parts just makes you so much cooler.
Yeah. It's like the animation Inside Out.
Inside Out is based on IFS.
Yeah, right.
It's based on IFS.
So much sense.
Yeah,
that makes
that's
so
right.
much sense.
And that's why I love it for kids.
Yeah.
Because then I'll talk to my kid about that film, and I'll be like, oh, remember the anxious guy? And,
Yeah.
They can speak for these parts of yourself.
Yeah. Talk to me about how you've been using IFS in those two ways. So you talked about with your husband, Zach, and with your son. Let's talk about IFS in that context of being in a relationship and a romantic relationship, and then having a relationship with your child. Let's start with romantic relationship. If someone's starting to do this work and they want to encourage their partner to be included in it, how do you do that? How do you go about that conversation in a way? I feel like so many people today are like, I don't want to date someone who hasn't done therapy. I don't want to date someone who hasn't healed. How do you actually have that conversation in a healthy way? I'm going to answer that with a story, okay? So, because I get this question all the time. When I first started this yoga practice almost a decade ago, and I was so deeply into it, and I was like doing the sadhana, and I was wearing the turban, you remember, and I was like in the whites, and I was like every day, all day, going to the teacher training, and I'd come home and I'd be like, Zach, you have to do this 5-hour breathwork practice with your hands in the air with me, and he was just like,
go F yourself. Like, no, I'm not doing that. And I kept being like, well, why isn't he doing it? And I went to my teacher and I said, listen, my husband isn't doing the practice with me. He doesn't want to do it. And she looked at me and she said, the second that you walk in the door, when you get home, she said, take off the turban and shut up. And that was it. That's my answer for everybody. Take off your metaphorical turban and shut up, because if your partner's not ready for it, they're not ready for it. You do the work. You are the one you've been waiting for. You get to work. You start tending to the parts of yourself inside. And when you change, everybody else around you has the opportunity to rise up with you. And that's in relationships. If you start to rise and they don't rise with you, then that's your sign. Okay, it's time to move on. But when you rise, you give somebody the opportunity to elevate with you, alongside you. But you got to do the work. You can't, you could say I'm, attracting a partner that wants to do the work, but their work might be different than your work. And so I've been on my own path. Zach's been on his own path. We find intersection, but he's not sitting and going to ashram, or he's not going to go and do a 2-hour meditation, but he will do self-help with me. Yeah. He'll check in with me. But this is a journey. You got to do the work for yourself.
Yeah. What about when your parts, even when you learn to speak for your parts and not as your parts, what happens when your parts have pushed people too far away? Yeah. So, for example, with your Knives Out, Zach is an understanding person who's doing the work with you. He's also trying to figure this out. I'm sure he has his version of whatever it is. What do you do when your parts have acted out and you've realized too late that they've actually pushed people quite far away? Is that repairable?
The word is repair. I think that depends on the relationship. As an addict, I know very well what it means to make an amends. A lot of times we, as addicts, addicts are very extreme parts. They're called firefighter parts that are literally at wit's end. I have to do whatever it takes to put out the fire and the flames of this impermissible feeling. And so that's why addicts deserve a tremendous amount of compassion, because oftentimes we're traumatized people who do not have the resources in that moment to actually heal and help ourselves. So in the scenario of an addict, let's just say they may have pushed a lot of people away. They might have created a lot of wreckage. And so it's first in the inner work of the self-forgiveness. There's a chapter in the book called Self-Forgiveness. In the inner work of getting in relationship with those parts and recognizing that was a part that was working really hard, and forgiving yourself first. Because you won't really be able to even be in an energy that could be resonant with someone to receive their forgiveness if you don't forgive yourself first. Because then you're needing them to make it right for you. You have to make it right for you. And when you do that, that's when your amends will really land. So I can look at Zach now and say, I know that this part needs me, and I'm working really hard with her. And so I'm going to forgive her, and I'm going to ask for your forgiveness as well. And so I think that's the answer, Jay, is that if your parts have created a lot of wreckage in your life, then you have to really, no one has to. My suggestion is to go deep into your own inner healing and forgiveness of yourself, and forgiveness of the parts, and acceptance of the parts. And then you'll be shown, self will guide you. You'll be self-led. Self is spirit. So self is God. Self is the energy of love inside of you. It will show you, okay, when you feel that you have access to that self-forgiveness inside, you're going to know that it's time to go and make amends. And maybe you get the forgiveness, or maybe you don't. But you don't need it. But you're there to ask, to make amends. I think that all relationships, if there are two parties that are interested in this is an extraordinary practice for a couple. Extraordinary. It's an extraordinary practice for a parent. Dr. Becky Kennedy is a good friend, and she's also very good friends with Dick Schwartz, and she practices a lot of IFS in the work as well. And it comes through in her work a lot. Because think about it, it's curiosity. You have a DFK, a deeply feeling kid, like I do, and the child, so to answer the second question, how do we do this with our kids? Some kids might like the 4 steps. Some kids might like, they're really activated, and you're like, okay, let's check in. Let me check in. And you actually could go through the steps with them. Let's check in with that part. Where do you feel that in your body, baby? And just checking in. Okay. Oh, and then what do you need? And how do you feel now that mommy's parenting them? They need the adult, resourced, undamaged self as often as possible as the parent, because that's what's safe. And so that self begets more self. In the case of my child, if I start trying to go through the 4 steps with him, he's like, are you kidding me? He is so allergic to these kind of conversation, or like, how are you feeling? He's like, no, mommy. So I have to do a little backwards ways. I'll just be very casual. I'll be like, yo, bro, how you feeling? Like, what's going on? Like, what happened today? Just really cash. Really cash. So you have to know your kid.
Yeah.
The kid is like, don't try that on me, mommy.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it, though, is that it gives you a language to speak to the other people in your life as well.
Yes. So if you have friends or other parties involved, it gives you a collective language. So it's really funny whenever I'm around my friends in the IFS community. I did a call yesterday with Dick Schwartz and his wife, and we were talking about AI stuff, and I was giving them some guidance, and they were getting activated by it because it's new, and it's like, what do you mean are you like a clone? Like, what are you talking about? And I looked at them and I was like, so guys, I know I have a really aggressive part that likes to get really excited about things, so just warning you as we enter this, and so we all speak for our parts in these relationships.
Amazing.
And it really is quite funny when you're around as IFS people, because we're all just like, my part feels this, but it's beautiful. I mean, imagine the whole world just walking around being like, hey, I just want to speak for a part of myself before I act like an asshole.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's a totally different way to live.
Do people use it as an excuse, though? Like a
Definitely.
false disclaimer?
Definitely. You don't want to start being like in that sort of wounded place of like,
it's kind of like that, no offense, but...
And that happens in all practices,
of course.
Right? You're going to be like, well, I just needed my 4-hour meditation, or I didn't do enough mantras this morning, or whatever, But in this instance, not in a way where we're judging them, but where we're befriending them and speaking for them and taking care of them.
Is there ever a time, we've talked a lot about self-soothing, self-regulating, self-help overall, is there ever a time where being hard on yourself is actually useful?
Didn't want to shut her down or blame her or shame her. She was doing the best she could, and she also did a lot of good along the way. And we can be in difficult times and still be doing great things in the world. So I think that a part that is sort of beating us up, or not even beating us up, maybe like an encouraging part that's like, push harder, go more. It's a self-like part. It's not self, but it has more self aspects than protector aspects. And the real question isn't, is that bad or good? It's really is it extreme? Because if it's extreme, that's when you really need to start to tend to it. Because remember, we could be very praised for our perfectionism, or very praised for our work ethic, or very praised for how hard we hit the gym, or how much we practice that tennis. And we could be really praised for that. And it looks like a great quality. And in many ways it is. But when it's extreme, it's oftentimes a very extreme protector.
Yeah, and that's why you've got to approach it in the same way. You can't judge that part of you that is hard on you.
No, check in with it. Yeah. And the thing that's happened, here's the miracle. When you start to check in with these parts and you start to befriend them and you start to self-soothe and you start to create this relationship inside, it's not that the parts have to go away, Jay. It's that the parts now become the best versions of themselves. They return to their natural roles. So my workaholic part, look, I've got you today, and then I'm doing it in a less extreme way. You know this. You've known me for almost a decade. My energy is different. 100%. I'm not doing less. I'm just more intentional, and I'm more aligned, and I'm more resourced, and I'm having more fun, and I'm more childlike. Yeah. I can't tell you how many friends like you and Lewis and like brothers.
Like, you just have this ease about you these days that, not that you weren't, and you were like, when I first met you, you were buzzy, and you were like, kind of like, you had all this good energy. You always have. I've never felt anything different. But I could feel that, like, ease and grace and peace from you.
Yeah.
And that's a really beautiful thing when you experience it in someone, because I think we're used to being around high-performing people who have big goals and targets and things like that. And that's not a fun energy to be around. It's kind of, it's not attractive, that energy. And we're all ambitious and stuff, so there's nothing wrong with that. But if that's someone's overarching energy, it's not the same as when you're around someone who's kind of just at ease and peace, even though they are driven and ambitious. Talk to me about that kind of paradox, because I think we think that if someone's at peace, they're slow.
Yeah.
And if someone's ambitious, they're fast. Talk to me about slow, fast.
Yeah.
peaceful, ambitious one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, oftentimes high-performing entrepreneurs do begin to alchemize and start to do the work, however that work shows up in their life, that their real successes, not external, but that they're actually able to achieve what they're truly capable of. And so achievement is not a sign of self-energy at all. Achievement is oftentimes a sign of a lot of protectors working their ass off to get something going, to protect you.
Yeah.
What happens when we are in that self-energy, when we're in self, is that it's not that if we are a high performer just by nature, certain people just have different energies, right? We're born with different frequencies. If that's in your nature and that's a part of you, it's not that goes away. It's just that you can do it in a more sustainable way. You have more boundaries. You have more ability to say yes, say no. You are clearer, so you're making better decisions. You're clearer, so you're not surrounding yourself with the wrong folks. You can actually move even faster and create even more because you're not burdened. So it's not fast or slow. It's what is the energy that's moving through you?
Yeah.
When you have self-energy, you can move real fast, but it's so intentional that it has so much more power, and you actually can do a lot less and attract a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing you mentioned there that really resonated with me. Let's talk about boundaries.
Yeah.
Because I feel like boundaries is at the heart of every human issue today. In the sense of when we think about interpersonal dynamics, whether people having issues with their friends, their family members, it's all boundaries based. And many of us are willing to break our boundaries because we care more about people pleasing. We care more about, living up to everyone's expectations. We care more about everything else.
Yeah.
And we think we have a boundary, we say we have a boundary, but we don't really keep up to it.
Yeah.
So I'll give an example. I was talking to a friend the other day, and she said she only wanted to hang out if all of the friends were invited. And another one of her friends said, no, I only want to hang out with you. And she was like, well, if we hang out, then everyone's going to find out we hang out, and then they're going to be upset that we hung out. So I think we should invite everyone. And the other friend said, no, I just want to hang out with you and a couple of other friends, but I don't want to invite everyone. So you had these two boundaries that were almost at odds with each other. One boundary was we should always invite everyone because it makes everyone feel included, which it almost was people pleasing, not even a boundary. And the other boundary was, no, I think it should just be a small group of us. And the person who wanted to invite everyone ultimately gave in and said, no, okay, fine, we'll just have a small group of us.
Yeah.
Now, this is a very small example, but to me, it's at the heart of all the problems that we have. It's like people being upset that people didn't invite them to their wedding. People being upset that they invited them but didn't give them an important role. People being upset that their family didn't prioritize their birthday. People being upset that they're always the ones organizing vacations and no one else does. Like, these are the real challenges in life that we're all going through every day. What do we do? How do we set boundaries that we actually stick to and that we're okay with letting people down, it seems?
It sounds like in the case of your friends, the one that was wanting to invite everybody, the big people pleaser part. And it might sound like the other one probably had a pretty clear, good boundaries.
Yeah.
Good or bad. I mean, listen, boundaries are only good if they're led by self. Because you could also be really like, I've got all these boundaries, but that's a protector too, right? So whether it's boundaries, whether it's control, whether it's anxiety, whatever the protector is, if those parts of you are happening in extreme ways, then it's a protector. It's across the board. When it comes to boundaries, I find that the more we do whatever type of personal development or spiritual practice that we have, and the more we start to access self inside, the more precious we realize our energy is. The more connected we feel else will. That was a really big part. If I don't do it, nobody else will. And that was lingering for up until maybe a year ago or less. It's really recent that it's been kind of out of my life. And not completely, but pretty much.
Talk about how you worked on that one, because that's a great one.
I just kept working with that part. That part was probably one of the parts I worked with most in my life. And it was really creating a lot of chaos because, one, it made me just to be the one that would take the burden of all of it and do all the work. Two, it wouldn't let people rise up. And three, it would put me in a position where I wasn't ever asking for what I wanted, and I did not have the clear boundaries around where I started and I ended. And so burnout. And so I kept working with it and checking in with it and noticing it and witnessing it and bringing it to my IFS therapy and bringing it to my meditation practice and checking in with it. I checked in with it every single day for at least a year through my journaling. I literally wrote with it every single day for a year. And during COVID, I was working with it like crazy. So it's been maybe 2 decades of working with that part, but really heavily in the last year. And man, I have come out the other side. I'm literally looking at people and I'm in a different nervous system. I'll look at somebody and I'll say, oh, no, that's your job. That's your job. That's not my job. I actually don't come across, I was probably much more of an asshole before because I was doing it and then mad that I was doing it and then taking it out on them energetically, right? So now I'm just like, oh, no, that's your thing. Or I'm going to ask that you do this thing. This is my clarity and boundaries. As a leader, as an entrepreneur, as someone who wants to be a leader in your home with your child, in your classroom, in your business, whatever it is that you do, this is the most important book you could read as a leader. And I wish I actually, it's easy for me to say that because it's based on Dick Schwartz's work, right? So it's this or any IFS practice work is the most important thing you could do as a leader. Because Dick talks about self-led leaders. We need to be showing up, particularly right now. What's happened is everyone out there, it's all just a lot of damaged parts all over the place. This country is insanely divisive all throughout the world. And that's just parts chaos. Chaos.
Yeah, we're leading through a knives out part,
exactly
addicted part, and an anxious part, whatever it may be.
Think about the activists. They're like fighting. Look, that work is incredible. It's life-changing. It's necessary. But if we're in that constant place of fighting, that's another protector. So how can you lead and activate from a place of self? How can you come from that? It doesn't mean that you don't get angry. It doesn't mean that you don't have rage. You use it. You infuse the self-energy into it. And it's really important right now.
Yeah, it's incredible. Gabby, I can't wait for people to read this book. Everyone, the book is called Self-Help. This is your chance to change your life. Go and grab your copy if you haven't already. I love that this book actually has a practice within it. It's built around the practice, built around the therapy. So it's not a book that you're going to read. It's a book that you're going to live, and it's a book that you're going to practice. And so I highly recommend, if you appreciate our conversation today, that you go grab a copy. Gabby, we end every episode of On Purpose with a final 5. And these questions have to be answered in 1 word to 1 sentence maximum. Because as humans, we're so good at using something for when it's useful.
Yeah.
And then as soon as it's not useful, we condemn it.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh yeah, I hate this job now. And it's like, well, no, this job paid for the last 3 years of your family, your life, everything.
Learned all that.
Even if you didn't love it, don't hate on it, but we kind of use it and we hate it. And it's like, oh, I love this partner, and now that things didn't work out, I hate them.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, no, like you learned so much. And we don't only do that with jobs and people, we do that with ourselves where, hey, there was this part of me that I hate now. And it's like, no, that part of you helped you survive college and kept you alive. And
I want to speak to that before we end it, because I wrote this book, the year that I wrote this book, I was a fellow at a recovery center.
Yeah.
And every month I would go and teach, and there was about 100 new folks entering the treatment center each time I'd show up. So they'd maybe be 1, 2, 3, 4 days sober. And I'd walk in the room, and I was teaching this. I was practicing what I was writing about. And so I'd look at this group of people who are all literally at wit's end. I mean, who knows what kind of destruction. They just 2 days into recovery. And I'd say to this group, well, listen, let me ask you, how many people in this room have experienced trauma? And they'd all raise their hand.
Wow.
And then I'd say, and wouldn't it make sense that you would do whatever it took to put out the flames of that impermissible fear and experience? And a lot of them would be like, okay, yeah, I get that. And then I'd say, well, wouldn't it make sense that the addict had a purpose, that it's been working really hard to keep you safe?
Yeah.
And I want to really, really let people hear that the parts of yourself that you're the most ashamed of, that have caused the most chaos in your life, they've been working really hard to keep you safe.
Yeah, it's so real. And if we were able to get that way, you'd be so much more positive and healthy about what's possible in your life.
And able to move forward because you could forgive yourself.
Yes. And able to move forward because you take all of that experience and learning and that energy on to the next. Mm-hmm. And you'd be willing to let go as well.
Yeah.
Like you could easily let go of that part, knowing that it served its purpose, whereas sometimes we probably stay too long in parts that are no longer serving us.
Our whole lives.
Yeah. Second question, what is the worst advice you've ever heard or received?
Stop doing YouTube and start blogging.
Did someone say that to you?
Yeah, like 10 years ago, it was the biggest mistake of my life. I'm rebuilding my YouTube now.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Like, sorry, that was like career advice, but it was
no, it's good.
The worst advice in my life. I was like, where's Jay Shetty when I needed him? It sounds like the stupidest thing to answer, but it really might have been, was that the worst advice of my life?
No, it's, okay.
I mean, yeah, I think I, in this moment, it's the thing that's top of mind.
Yeah. I think there's...
Do we expect something more profound than that?
No. That's the whole point of the podcast, is to be fully authentic. So,
yeah.
I'm reacting because I think what's really interesting is that there's a lot of people who say they're experts, but really the only people you can trust as experts are the people that are actually doing it. Mm-hmm. And I feel like there's a lot of bad advice. I see all the time, like there'll be someone on Instagram saying, this is what to do on Instagram. Mm-hmm. And someone will show it to me, my friend or something, saying, oh, Jay, and I'm like, check how many followers that person has, check what their engagement is. Yeah. Like, check how many comments they get.
Yeah.
Don't trust them. Like, it's just someone saying something. Mm-hmm. And it sounds really convincing and it sounds really well put, but they don't have the engagement or anything to follow it.
Yeah, exactly. So. And the thing, I think that was a bad choice for me and it was bad advice that I took because for me, I'm an orator. I'm a raconteur. I needed to be storytelling on I guess YouTube really being the greatest place. As I'm looking at your YouTube plaque right there. Oh, yeah. So here I am. I'm rebuilding my YouTube now.
Yeah.
But then the other thing is forgive the advice that you took that was wrong and start again. And here I am. I'm like literally like I might as well be like a bro in Bushwick in like a studio apartment, like hacking, making my YouTube channel with all the packages. But I'm having fun with it.
Yeah.
And that creative force is self.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
How do we do that part? Like let's take that really practical thing. Like often we got bad advice. We took a wrong turn. Yeah. A relationship took us off track. How do you use this to get over that? Because that is like one of those things that could just be a thorn forever that you're just like, God, that person, if I didn't date them for 3 years, if I didn't take that advice, I wouldn't have wasted those 6 years of my life blogging, whatever it is. How do we apply that to this?
Oh my God. I think I'm a master. I should write a book about this. I'm a master at self-forgiveness. And I think that I have been because it's like a flip that I just switched for myself, particularly in my sobriety, where I had to just choose. I think that it's a choice you make to carry the burdens of your past or to choose to step into what could be your opportunity in the moment. Mm-hmm. So someone right now could have a quantum shift right here, right now. We could give them a quantum shift right here, right now. If they choose to start to say, I forgive myself. Even if you just fake it till you make it. I forgive myself. Okay. And I like to kind of speak to myself like this, Jay. I'll do something that's kind of wobbly, maybe not the greatest thing. I'll talk like this. I'll go, okay, we did that again. Okay, we did that again. How do I need to clean it up? What do I need to, who do I make amends to? Who do I check, what part do I check in with? Mm-hmm. And then very quickly, how do I choose again?
Yeah, how do I choose again? That question shifts it completely. Because it was a choice. You had the power. Yeah. You made a choice. And I think, I agree. I mean, I've pivoted so many times in my career and my life and so many things, and it's only been because I've followed self.
Yes.
And that's where I know when I'm not living my best life is when I'm not following self.
Totally.
And I think the challenge is that self can get very quiet for people. And you talk a lot about trusting yourself ultimately, and you can't trust yourself when you can't hear yourself, and you can't hear yourself because you haven't listened to yourself for so long.
That's right.
And this book is helping you get back to that so that you're not making decisions based on rationale or logic, or pros and cons lists, but you're actually having clarity from within, which is such a gift.
And if you think about that, clarity from within.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're struggling to change a relationship, this will guide you to that clarity. If you are struggling to forgive a past behavior that's been holding you back, this will help you release that behavior and start to connect to that clarity. So that essence of accessing the energy that we need, anyone listening wants to create in this lifetime. Mm-hmm. They have visions, they have dreams, they have desires. It's not about how often you say it. It's not about how many vision boards you create. It's not about how many affirmations you say. It's about how you relate to yourself inside. Mm. Because you're always attracting who you are. You manifest and attract who you are.
Mm. Question number 3. What are you feeling really clear about right now?
Very, very clear about YouTube. I'm really clear about where I want to put my energy, where I want to focus my energy.
I mean, what a great place to be. Mm-hmm. Question number 4. What's something you used to value that you no longer value?
External validation. I value it. Like you said earlier, it's nice, but it was something that was very important for me. And I needed it. And I don't feel it that way anymore.
Switched, yeah. 5th and final question. We ask this to every guest who's ever been on the show. If you could create one law that everyone in the world had to follow, what would it be?
To get to know your parts. Yeah, heal on the inside. I actually do really believe that. I believe that if everyone was doing this type of work, that we would be living in a very different place.
Yeah, because we wouldn't be throwing our wounds all over the place.
We'd be self-help.
Yeah.
We'd be helping ourselves. We'd be accessing more self. And what really the only way to change the frequency or change the trajectory that we're on is to actually, on an individual level, start to heal. Mm-hmm. And in that inner healing, we start to lead in our own corners with that self-led energy. And it's community right now. I mean, this is what I've been channeling in my meditations. It's getting inside, doing the inner work, and then bringing that self-led energy into your...
Go and grab a copy of the book to do the work yourself, to save yourself so much time, energy, money in the long term for your own good, the good of your family, your partner, whoever else may be in your life, your friends, your community. Thank you again, Gabby, for coming on the show. It's great to have you back and have this conversation. And thank you. I'm so grateful for your work.
I love you.
Thank you. I love you too. Thanks, Gabby. If this is the year that you're trying to get creative, you're trying to build more, I need you to listen to this episode with Rick Rubin on how to break into your most creative self, how to use unconventional methods that lead to success, and the secret to genuinely loving what you do. If you're trying to find your passion and your lane, Rick Rubin's episode is the one for you.
Just because I like it, that doesn't give it any value. Like, as an artist, if you like it, that's all of the value. That's the success comes when you say, I like this enough for other people to see it.
Every human being has a hardwired need to be in control of everything. There's 3 things in your control, Jay. What you think, what you do or don't do, and how you process your emotions. If you embrace this skill, you're going to be shocked.
This is by far one of the best self-help books I've ever read. Your mind and soul are in for a treat.
The queen of grounded, science-backed personal development,
Mel Robbins.
Work has been seen as the #1 cause of stress.
You have a customer that's really rude. You lose a big account. You get passed over for something. As you notice the stress come up, Jay, you're simply going to say, let them. If you focus and try to manage things that are never going to be within your control, it only creates stress, anxiety, and frustration for you.
Imagine for every thought you had about that person, you had to pay them $1. That's how much energy, time, and money is being wasted.
You have no idea right now how much time and energy is being wasted or drained because of other people's behavior or your expectations about how you wish things would go. This is, I think, my legacy. I think that this is the thing I was supposed to figure out and leave the world.
The #1 health and wellness podcast.
Jay Shetty.
The one, the only Jay Shetty.
if you're struggling right now with things you can't control, this episode is for you. If you're someone who's struggling at work and negative people and toxic culture, this episode's for you. If you're someone who's struggling with your family members and your friends and setting boundaries, this episode's for you. So, Mel, where I want to start is work has been seen as the number one cause of stress. You write about this in the book, in people's lives. How can the let them theory help people in the place that causes them the most stress?
It's an excellent question. So first, let me, no pun intended, let me explain the theory. So in case you haven't bumped into this online, the theory is very simple. It is a mindset tool that instantly helps you identify what's in your control and what's not in your control. The reason why this is important is because any psychologist will tell you that if you focus and try to manage things that are never going to be within your control, it only creates stress, anxiety, and frustration for you. When you take the context of work, there is so much inside your day-to-day life at work that is irritating, it is stressful, it is annoying, from the endless meetings and no time to get work done, to if you're somebody that is working in a retail store, you're doing shift work, you don't have control over what shifts you get, to feeling like you don't have the chance for promotion. It is just endless. And the way that you're going to use the let them theory is anytime something is happening at work that stresses you out. You have a customer that's really rude. You lose a big account. You get passed over for something. Your idea gets dismissed in a work meeting. As you notice the stress come up, Jay, you're simply going to say, let them. Let my boss be in a bad mood. Let my colleague take credit. Let the customer be rude to me. And here's the thing. This sounds almost like you're being a doormat and you're being passive. It's the exact opposite. When you say let them, you're recognizing that the situation right now that has just happened has already happened, and that there is no reason to allow it to stress you out. When you allow your boss's mood to stress you out or make you nervous, you're giving power to your boss that they do not deserve. And so you're going to say, let them. When you allow a customer that is rude or inconsiderate to make you feel bad about yourself or to make you upset or to rattle you, you just gave this rude person power over you. When you say, let them, something interesting happens. First of all, you detach. Second, you feel almost superior. It's this weird thing because I don't think this is the same thing as saying, let it go. You're a very grounded person, Jay. You strike me as the kind of person that can let anything go. Me? Whenever somebody would say to me, Mel, I know, it's not fair what just happened at work. You got to let it go. I'd be like, but I feel like I lost. I feel like I now have to be defeated. I feel more like a doormat if somebody tells me to let something go.
What's the difference between let it go and let them?
For me, when I say let them, I get a jolt of superiority because I'm like, I can see that my boss is kind of a jerk and I'm just going to let them be a jerk. And I rise above it and I feel a little judgy. I mean, if I'm being perfectly honest, this is why people get this tattooed on their bodies. Because when you say the word let them or you see it on your arm, what happens is you no longer allowed a rude colleague or something frustrating at work to derail your day. You say let them and you rise above it and you kind of go, I see what's happening here. I'm going to allow this without allowing it. But then there's a second part, Jay, and this is the most important part. And it's the part that people do not tattoo on themselves because it's the harder part. And the second part to this theory is saying to yourself, let me. Let me remind myself that in life, there are always three things I can control. That's where my power is. My power is not in managing my boss or in trying to deal with some customer that just doesn't want to be in an okay mood and doesn't want to be calmed down. They want to be right. They want to take it out on you. So you're going to let them. But then you've created this boundary. You rise above. I'm going to just let you be upset here. I'm not going to let it impact me. And then you say, let me. And what you're reminding yourself of is there's three things in your control, Jay. What you think, next. What you do or don't do. And oftentimes not doing something is the more powerful mood. And how you process your emotions. Those are the three things that are always in your control. And when you say, let me take responsibility right now for how I'm going to respond to this. And the word responsibility, after all, is the ability to respond, right? And so when you say, let me, And you remember, I can think what I want about this, I can act in response to this, and I can process my emotions and either allow them to rise and fall and stay steady and calm, or, you know, you can certainly erupt if you want to. But why would you want to? Because then that means you've given power to somebody else.
Why are we so distracted and obsessed with things we can't control? I'm sure we all have a friend or know someone who knows they need to be working on their business,
right,
but they're talking about the news.
Right.
They know they should be writing their book, but they're focused on talking about politics. They know they should be building the next stage in their career or whatever it may be, trying to get that promotion, work towards that next threshold or whatever they're trying to achieve, but they're distracted by talking about all the people, all the things, all the ideas that they can do nothing about. Why are we so addicted to it?
Well, I think there's two reasons, because your question is about two different things. One is, why are we focused on things we can't control? And the other one is sort of like, why are we distracted? And they're interconnected. So let's just address the issue of control. Every human being has a hardwired need to be in control of everything, because being in control is what makes you feel safe. So I need to feel in control of my thoughts, my decisions, my environment, my future. And the problem is, so do you. But part of the need for control, Jay, extends beyond me, because if you're doing something that makes me annoyed or irritated or worried about you, now I'm feeling a little unsafe or worried because of what you're doing. And so now I'm going to want to control you so that I feel better. And so it is a fundamental hardwired need inside every human being you know to be in control of yourself. And yet, the second we step across the line and we try to control someone else, whether it's, I think you should be healthier, I think you should be more motivated, I wish you wouldn't leave the Kleenexes when you're blowing your nose on the whatever it is that you wish someone else would do. I wish my boss wouldn't talk in every meeting and would give a chance for us to talk. All of that desire for someone else to change is you attempting to control the uncontrollable. And so I think one of the reasons why we do this is because we're hardwired to do it. And the problem becomes that the second I try to control you, Jay, it's not going to motivate you to do what I want you to do. It's going to bump up against your need for your own control. So you're going to push back against me.
Absolutely.
And so you also asked about distraction. I think the reason why we're so distracted is because if you spend so much time and energy allowing the world around you to stress you out and drain your energy, you are now susceptible to being hijacked by meaningless things that are not important to you. And this is one of the biggest discoveries that I've made about using the let them theory, and researching it has spread around the world, is that the single biggest benefit is that you get time and energy back. You have no idea right now how much time and energy is being wasted or drained because of other people's behavior or your expectations about how you wish things would go. And once you start noticing all of these little moments all day long, it's like a death by 1,000 cuts. You want to know why you're too tired? You want to know why you're overwhelmed? You want to know why you're stressed out? You want to know why you have no time for yourself? It's because of the power you give to other people's opinions, their emotions, their immature behavior. It's the ways in which you are turning people into a problem in your life. And here's the sad fact of happiness and connection and inspiration. But if you don't truly learn this skill that we're going to talk about today, of focusing on what you can control and letting people be who they are, power back in-house, and really focusing on how you respond to it, if you embrace this skill, you're going to be shocked. You're going to be shocked by how much time you've wasted. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
And you're going to be shocked, Jay, by the fact that you've allowed stupid things and people's drama to drain you. And that's why I also think we're so susceptible to distraction, because we've given so much power away all day long. Because here's the truth. I'll give you an example. When I first discovered this and I started playing around with it, the very first way that I used it after I discovered it was I was standing in line. And we've all been at the grocery store when it's 6 people deep and there's one person working.
Yeah.
And it's beep, beep, beep. And you start feeling that wave, right? Mm-hmm. And immediately the wave of stress takes over, because you're now irritated by what's happening. And what just happens when you start reacting to that and you allow that stress wave to start to take over is that you're giving power to something outside of you. Now, I can't control what's happening right now. So why on earth would I allow it to drain my energy? Because as it comes up, Jay, what do I then do? I then start talking to myself. Well, this is ridiculous. Why have they not done an announcement? Like, I got to get going here. Why are they not bringing another? Now I'm starting to believe, Jay, that I can run a supermarket better than the people that are running it. Yeah. And then you, of course, turn to the person behind you and you roll, like, can you believe this? And now this is the interesting part that I really want the person listening to embrace. In that moment, you just gave away your energy. And you have a choice. When you say let them, you instantly feel a release. And then you say, let me decide what I'm going to do right now. Am I going to leave? I can leave the store. That's one thing I can do. I could stand here and practice being present. That's another thing I could do. I could, because I don't have time at the end of the day and I'm always tired and I'm complaining that I'm lonely, I could actually pick up the phone and call my grandmother. I could text my friend Jay Shetty because I've been thinking about him. Like, you have so much power, but you're going to burn through it in that line, and then you're going to feel your stress activated, and then you're going to get in the car, and then somebody's going to pull out in front of you, and then you're going to, like, be stressed again, and then you're going to walk into work, and you're going to be annoyed in some meeting because of what somebody said, and then that's going to hit you again, and all day long, because you don't recognize how this stuff is impacting you, that energy inside your body is slowly draining. And this is why you're exhausted. And so simply starting to use it, whether it's at work or it's just in your daily life, to say, let them. Wanting people to change is not the problem. How we go about it is. If their behavior is telling you that your needs are not a priority, you have to let them reveal that. You're only attached to it because you've never experienced anything else.
I want to paint another scenario for people to really understand the system. Let's say you have a partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, maybe you're married to them, and this person always turns up from work a little bit late. They don't wash the dishes. You wake up in the morning, the dishes are always still out there. There's a sense that you've told them this irks you 1,000,000 times.
Did my husband ask you to ask me this question, Jay?
He's amazing.
I know, Chris has your number, so he probably texted you.
Yeah, Chris. And so I mean, I'm speaking from so much, not direct personal experience, but personal experience in so many ways. And you're saying this person's not changing. They haven't changed.
No, because this is a fundamental rule, everybody.
Yeah.
Number one, you cannot change another human being. It is impossible for you to change somebody else. Now, you can influence them, but you cannot change them. People only change if they feel like it and if they can. And wanting and wishing is a wonderful thing. Wanting and wishing somebody to be cleaner and to pick up after themselves, wanting your kids to be more motivated, wanting the people that you love to take better care of themselves and to be healthier, or to date somebody that is normal and healthy instead of the losers that treat them like crap. That's a beautiful thing for you to want for other people. And you deserve to do that, and you should do that. Wanting people to change is not the problem. Wanting bigger possibilities for people is not the problem. How we go about it is. And so in the scenario that you're talking about, this is a beautiful example, because you have to say, let them. You see the dishes in the sink, it makes you upset because you feel disrespected and it's annoying, and you have higher standards for cleanliness, which means you're probably just going to do them anyway, and then you're going to feel like you're really taking whatever for granted. But you have to say, let them. And one of the reasons why is because, number one, if this is a long-term committed partnership, learning how to love somebody as they are is a form of love that is deeply important. And if you can't say, let them, in that moment, you are going to get frustrated and angry, and then you are going to come to the next part of the let them theory with tremendous intensity and judgment. And that's not going to motivate change. What it does when you judge somebody or you push against them is it actually creates resistance to change. So you have to say let them, because it allows you to detach from your emotions and detach from judgment, right? It is what it is. I see what's happened. I'm accepting the reality of this. Let them. Then you come to the let me part. Is this something that bothers you? And if it is, remember, you got 3 things. I can choose what I want to think about this. And so you could think a good thought. You could think, okay, good intention. They were probably super busy this morning and they meant to do it later. Let them. Okay, I'm going to choose to believe that. You could also then remind yourself, let me remind myself there's something I can do about this, right? And if it's really important, what you need to do about this is have a conversation. And by the way, Chris has had this conversation with me a bazillion times. So if you walk into our bathroom, Chris's bathroom probably looks like your side of the sink, which is, it's like a Zen 7-star hotel, Jay. Like, there's not a speck on that man's, like, basin or whatever you call it. If you look at mine, it looks like somebody tipped over a Walgreens aisle on top of that thing. And it drives Chris crazy. But what particularly drives him crazy is when something migrates from my side to his side, right? And so he's asked me to please keep my stuff over there. He has asked me to please flatten cardboard boxes when they come in. Don't unpack them and then stack them by the garage door as if I'm supposed to do it. And he's asked me, and then I forget. Well, he finally sat me down, Jay. And this is the let me part. You have to take responsibility for explaining to somebody what you need and the reason why this is important to you. Because when Chris said to me, I know you don't intend this, but this is the impact, Mel. When I see the cardboard boxes stacked, or I see your hairbrush and 15 products of yours on my countertop, it actually makes me feel like you think I'm the maid. And we don't even have a maid. Like, it's just like, it makes me feel like you think it's my job to clean up after you. And that doesn't make me feel loved. Now, when he took the time in a very calm way to drop into his values and communicate what he needed, something interesting happens. If you're in a committed, loving partnership and you're with somebody who wants to do better and cares about you, it taps into their intrinsic motivation to build new skills. If you have that kind of conversation with somebody and you explain how their behavior impacts you, whether it's their drinking, or it's the tone of their voice, or it's the fact that they leave their stuff everywhere, or it's that they insist that you spend every holiday with their family and they have no interest in your, whatever the issue is, if you sit somebody down and you take responsibility, you've let them be and you've let them show you who they are, and then you say, let me sit down and talk about this and take responsibility. I have the ability to respond to this like a mature adult. And you actually express what you need and why, and that person doesn't try, you have to let them. And here's why. Their behavior is telling you the truth. Their behavior is telling you what they care about and what their priorities are. And if their behavior is telling you that your needs are not a priority, you have to let them reveal that. Because
that's also what let them means.
Yes. Because then you're going to come back to the second part, which is, let me ask myself, is this kind of behavior from somebody what I deserve? Is this what I'm willing to accept in somebody? Because again, what do we also know? People only change when they want to or they can. And you might be in a situation where somebody would really love to change, but they can't, because they're dealing with some challenge right now, or they don't have the skill yet. And you may decide, if that's the case, to still love and accept the person.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
But there may be times where you have had the conversation and it is very clear they're capable of it. They just won't do it.
Yeah.
And what I find in relationships where that sort of invisible distance and the frustration and the resentment comes up is twofold. Number one, you can't detach from your emotions and say, let them, and really fully just let the person be who they are. And you don't do the part, let me, where you actually take responsibility for expressing in a mature way what you need and how their behavior impacts you. And so if you don't ever express what you need and how it's impacting you, you're not actually giving somebody the opportunity to build a skill or to change or to love you the way that you need them to love you, so that you feel loved. The second mistake that I see constantly is that you make the ask and then the person doesn't do it, and then you start making excuses and resentment builds. And you stay in something, seeing exactly who someone is, wishing they would change, living up here in your mind about the fantasy of what you wish this was, refusing to accept the reality of what it actually is.
You've just unlocked a whole new meaning of let them for me.
How so?
I've always understood let them when I've heard you speak about it, when I read the book, this idea of let them be who they are. Let them act the way they want to act. Let them say and do whatever they want to do. I have to let them. I have to keep that distance. What you just unlocked for me, which I really want to, everyone to grapple with because I think it's so powerful, is this idea of let them also show you who they are.
Yes.
And if they're showing you who they are, let them be that person. Don't make them the person you imagine them to be, the one you want them to be, the one that you're wishing and waiting and hoping for them to be.
Yes.
They are that person.
Yes.
Let them be. That is, oh my gosh, my mind is literally blown because that is so powerful.
But you still have power, Jay. Here's the most important thing, everybody. This is the most important thing. This is the epiphany that I had too. Like, holy cow. I still get to choose. I still get to choose. I get to choose how much time and energy I pour into this. Whether it's this issue, or it's this topic, or it's this person. And here's how you know if you can actually love somebody for who they are and who they're not. Can you end your complaining and bitching about it? Because if you can't do that, then this is something you're holding on to and you're holding over the other person. And if they're never going to change, you're going to have a problem. Because the only thing that's going to make the relationship better is either them hearing you and caring enough and being able to adjust, or you being the one to adjust because it's your complaining about it that is creating the friction and the resentment. And this is not only with romantic relationships. Like when I think about the broader applications of this for family, there are very challenging people in my extended family, just like everybody's family, right? And so there's always one person in your life that you wish there just wasn't drama with. You wish they didn't have a challenging demeanor or personality. The let them theory has fundamentally, profoundly changed my relationship also with people that have been difficult. Because when I say let them, like let's say we're talking about somebody who's very narcissistic or dramatic or victim, or it's always about them, and very draining person to be around. Well, part of the reason why they're draining is because you brace and you get ready for it and you allow their energy to impact you. And I always find it funny, Jay, that especially in families and at work, we allow the most challenging person to have the biggest impact on the whole system. So if you have one person that's narcissistic in their personality style, or that is very, very dramatic and immature in their personality style, they're the one, if you imagine a spider web, right? I think about a system of relationships like a spider web, and you're out in the morning, the dew's on it. When you have a challenging person, because we all tiptoe around this person, that person's energy is like tap, tap, tap and shakes all the dew off. I believe the opposite is true, especially after learning the let them theory, because there's been people in my life, both in work life and in my family life, where when that person's around, I literally shrink to 8 years old. I'm dancing around their mood. We all have had an experience like this. Maybe you're thinking about a boss or your mother or your father-in-law or a brother or whomever, an adult child, right? When I walk into these situations now and I say, let them be who they are. Why am I making it my job to manage their mood?
Yeah.
Why am I pouring time and me manage my energy? Let me remind myself, I can remove myself from any dinner table, any family text chain. I can remove myself from an interview, a date, a conversation, a relationship, anytime I want. And I believe, Jay, the most peaceful and centered and powerful, because you understand the power of your energy and your thoughts and your actions. You actually have more power in any family system and any office building, in any room, anywhere, than the most challenging person.
I couldn't agree more. I love that. And I feel like when you start looking at your energy and time, if you thought about it like money, and this idea that imagine for every thought you had about that person, you had to pay them $1. And you think about how many dollars, if you now started to count the amount of thoughts you're having about that person, about that situation, about what they said to so-and-so, what they thought about you, and you had to pay $1 for every thought you had about them, that's how much energy, time, and money is being wasted.
Yes.
And we're not realizing where else it could be invested and put in. But I think you hit the nail on the head there. The reason is we feel so attached that we don't feel we can actually leave. As Thich Nhat Hanh would say, we would rather live in the familiar pain than the unfamiliar pain. At least we know what we're going to get with this person. And there's a part of us that gets attached to that, even subconsciously.
Well, here's the thing, though, Jay. Because I think it's a really important point that you're bringing up, but here's what I think you're going to discover. I think you're only attached to it because you don't value your time and energy.
For sure.
You're only attached to it because you've never experienced anything else. And the reason why you're used to it is because in the relationship dynamic, you're up in your head, usually in a relationship explaining away behavior instead of actually seeing it with clear eyes. And detaching from it. And that's the other reason, and I know you knew this instantly, that the let them theory and saying let them and let me, one of the reasons why it's so powerful and I'm so excited is I feel literally like I'm surrounded by ancestors because this is a modern application of ancient philosophy, spiritual guidance, stoicism, detachment theory that you can then apply in any moment in any relationship. And what I also love about this, Jay, is that I think it allows you to truly see people perhaps for the first time and to give them the space to be who they are.
Related to support women's overall health, so you never miss a beat. Another email, no big deal. A quick workout? Yes, strength starts from within. Then it's apron on. You're making dinner with your little sous chef. You show up for overall health, including immunity and energy. Shop today. One a day. The one for you.
Be who they are. And from that space, what's amazing is you can let people, for example, a lot of us are very triggered and motivated when somebody's disappointed. Or we think that somebody's going to really be let down by us. And I had this huge breakthrough because I used to feel really guilty, either by how much I work or the fact that Chris and I raised our kids on the East Coast and my parents are in the Midwest. And, I love my parents and I wish we all lived together. But here's the thing. They're not moving to me and I'm not moving to them. We got to let them, right? But there's a lot of emotion about it. And I know your family's all over the place too. So, you're nodding I'm not saying anything because my family listens to this, Mel. So here's the thing. If I don't go home with my family for the holidays, my parents are disappointed. Let them be disappointed. I mean, isn't that a beautiful thing that they're disappointed? Don't you want somebody to be disappointed that you're not coming?
That really
can't make it this year home? I mean, what's the alternative? That they're like, thank God Jay's not coming. I can't stand him. No, seriously. Really wrap your brain around this. And so when you say let them be disappointed, something beautiful happens. You actually honor their experience of being human. You're really good in your relationships. But then you say let me. And the old me would twist myself in knots, and then I would make myself feel bad, and then I would question what I was doing, and then I'd bend over backwards, try to be there, and try to be here. And instead, when I say let me, I drop into my values. I deeply value family. And so And so as someone else is disappointed, the old me would feel deeply guilty and conflicted. Now with the let them theory, I have space for them to be disappointed but if I change plans, I don't do it for them. Because if I change plans for them, guess what I just did? I made them the villain in my life. if I change plans because it makes me feel like a good daughter, it makes me feel
Absolutely.
good. Now I take responsibility for my life and I am owning my decisions. And it's a small nuance, but it's absolutely everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
And the other reason why I love this, especially as a parent of adult children, and, you know, this is a book about adult relationships. And so I make it very clear in the book, and there's resources for parents with younger kids in back. But one of the coolest things about this is that when you let someone have their emotions and you let someone struggle while you say, I'm on the sidelines and I'm here to support, but I know that the greatest teacher in life is life. And I'm not going to shield you from the consequences of some of the things that you're choosing. You're an adult. So I'm going to let you. When you allow someone the space to process emotion and the space to face their struggles and the space to heal on their own timeline and in their own way, you actually communicate that I believe that you can.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you step in and try to force somebody to be more motivated at school, or let's just take that one, because there's a lot of people that listen to my show, and I'm sure it's the same people that are listening to yours, that write in are like, I don't know how to make this person more motivated.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
For sure.
So here's what I want you to understand, and this was another huge breakthrough when I was writing this book. Do you want to know the hardest working person in a classroom, Jay? It's the kid who's struggling. It's not the people that are getting straight A's. It's the person who's having a really hard time.
Wow.
Do you want to know the hardest person that's working on their health? It's actually the person that's unhealthy. Because they know that they want to be healthier. Mm. And so they are not stuck. They're in deep conflict actively within themselves. And so if somebody is already aware that there is a gap between their potential and how they're performing, that there is a gap between their God-given right to thrive and be happy and be connected and what their life actually feels like, they know it. Mm-hmm. And then you come in and try to impose your will or your good ideas. Oh, thanks a lot. So I never thought that if I wanted to get good grades, I needed to study and not play video games. Thank you, Einstein. Oh, I should go to the gym if I want to lose some weight? Never thought of that. So you come in and you have judgment and assumptions. What is it? That's more pressure on top of somebody who is actually already deeply conflicted with themselves.
Yeah.
And so if you really embrace this and you understand that people change when they feel like it and when they can, and if somebody's struggling, it's because they're not able to right now. There's a skill that's missing. And one of the biggest things that's typically missing is the belief that any of the small actions will actually do anything anyway.
Yeah.
And so you coming in and imposing it, you know what that says? It actually says, I don't believe you can do this.
Mm-hmm. I'll do it for you.
Yes.
I can do it for you.
Because
I can
you
solve
can't.
it for you. Yeah, absolutely.
If you can't control it, why on earth would you allow any time or energy to be wasted because you're going to keep this person in your life even though they walked out the door? Which is why you have to let them. You're not just letting them leave. You have to unlearn the patterns of your life that were with them.
I remember when me and Radhi actually got married and we moved to America. And Radhi will say this herself, that at that time in her life, her parents had made a lot of big decisions for her. Mm. And she was following decisions that they were making or opportunities that they were putting forward. And all of that was with good intention. And then when we got married, she'd start to ask me for my advice or my insight. This would be anything from what plates we should buy for our apartment through to like what kind of curtains we wanted, right? We're talking about really small, everyday things. And I remember I would always say to her, well, what do you think? And she'd always say, no, you just tell me. And I'd be like, no, but what do you think? And in the start, it would really frustrate her. But now she looks back and she goes, that question helped her so much because it helped her find her own identity, her own strength, her own tastes, her own dislikes. And now she's a whole human with opinions. And it's so fascinating to watch that. And it was because I almost had this forevisioning or this thought that even if I make my life easier by just telling her my tastes and dislikes and likes, it's only going to be easy in the short term because 10 years from now, she's going to think she became the person I wanted her to be and never became the person she could be.
Right.
And I could see that. And so I stood up. I was like, no, you just tell me. Until this day, I always practice. I'm like, I think you look beautiful, but I want you to wear what you want to wear. It shouldn't be about what I think you look better in or worse in. Or that just shouldn't be the case. And it's so interesting how we think love is over-caring.
Right.
But actually over-caring is over-enabling that person and overwhelming that person.
Yes, and it's control.
It's control.
You're not, like, if you think about what love really is, and for me, love is two things. It's consideration, right? It's having someone in mind. If you pour in oat milk instead of the cow milk because that's what they like, that's an act of love. It's also admiration. And admiration is the ability to see something in somebody that you deeply admire.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, it's his job to keep the power on. That's why he chooses Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call, click, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Admire. I want to go back to something that you said, though, because it was genius, and it had me think about the idea of the power of your time and energy. And you were talking about, imagine if, like, your time and your energy had dollars associated with it. Because I don't think we value it. And I started to think about one of the biggest obstacles, because what's ultimately happening when you start to use let them and let me is you're going to see that you've turned other people into a major problem. And you have turned them into a problem in four ways. First of all, you allow them to stress you out, but you're not going to do that anymore because you're going to let them be. But the second way that you've made them a major problem in your life is that you give so much weight to other people's opinions. And in the example you were just talking about, what was happening is by asking you, what do you think? Roddy was doing what we all do. But most of us do it subconsciously and we don't even realize it, which is before we even ask ourselves what feels right for us, we stop and consider what we think somebody's going to think. And you have that, like, really brilliant thing that I've heard you say a bazillion times that I love. It's not what you think, a think. And I'm like, wait. But so I want to play this out because this is so important, was a huge thing for me. If you open up your favorite social media platform, we've all had the experience where you go and you pick a photo and you then put it up and you're like, okay, should I put a filter on this? And you start to then question, is this the right photo? And then you go back to your photo roll and then you start working on the caption. Should I put an emoji? Is this too much? Should I do this? And then you are worried. Why? Because you're actually thinking about what other people are going to think or do in response to what you're posting.
Yes.
Which means if you take the value of it, right, you just overvalued something that you will never be able to control, ever. And yet you're doing it subconsciously. And what typically happens is, if you notice, everybody's got hundreds of draft posts.
Yeah.
You know what that is?
Yeah.
That is a graveyard of energy you wasted on something that you'll never be able to control, because the average person has 70,000 random thoughts a day. You can't even control half the crap that goes in your own mind. So what makes you think any post is going to guarantee that any human being thinks anything? And the let them theory revealed to me, Jay, how often I was subconsciously valuing someone else. And that, like, are they going to think negative? Are they going to think this? Are they going to think too much? And there's such a simple way to change this. You just let them think negative thoughts. That's it. The next time you catch yourself stopping to consider what you're going to post or what your colleagues might react to, and that's what's keeping you silent, say to yourself, let them think negative thoughts. Because that's what you're actually afraid of.
Yeah.
And so when you say, let them think negative thoughts, something wild happens. You accept the reality that no matter what you do, it doesn't guarantee that anybody thinks anything.
Yeah.
And then you say, let me. And here's where this gets really cool. Let me remind myself I can think what I want and I can do what I want. And your social media in particular, as you and I both know, it's your self-expression. That's what it's there for. And if you can't allow yourself to express yourself there, then it's going to be everywhere where you edit yourself, because you're not just letting people think negative thoughts.
For sure.
But if you operate in a way now, and you now take the value, you take the money back. We're not going to pay Jay the money for his opinion. I'm going to take the money back, and where I'm going to put the value is operating in a way that makes me feel proud of myself. Because when I operate in a way, whether I'm posting something or I'm speaking in a meeting or I'm showing up and not responding to my dramatic whatever, I'm proud of myself. And when you're proud of yourself, you don't even consider what other people are thinking, because you've just anchored all of your worth inside of yourself.
Yeah.
And that's why this is another reason why this is so unbelievably powerful.
Yeah, and the truth is, no one's thinking about you for as long as you think.
It's true.
No one's thinking about you for as much as you think. No one's thinking about you as much as they even say they're thinking about you. And we just, like you said, we keep draining that energy, consumed by it. You reminded me of the beautiful Charles Horton Cooley quote, and he wrote this in 1890. And he said, the challenge today is, I'm not what I think I am. I'm not what you think I am. I am what I think you think I am, which means we live in a perception of ourselves. So if I think Mel thinks I'm not smart, then I don't think I'm smart.
Right.
So it's not even reality. It's not even factually proven or checked or tested.
Right.
By the way, everything in the Let Them theory, this book is literally every thought. Those 70,000 thoughts, that's what you're addressing in this book.
Yes, and
Because
let
these
them,
are-
2 words, gets rid of this fear.
Yeah.
It literally does.
Because I've talked to at least 3 friends this week, and all of them are concerned by either, hey Jay, I'm thinking about posting a video on social media. I'm scared of what people will think. So that's for their professional or their passion.
Right.
I've got another friend who's worried that a lot of our other friends are talking about him negatively because he's recently fallen out with them.
Okay.
And so he's worried, like, what are they saying? They're all talking to each other. What rumors are they spreading about me? Like, maybe it's not true. And the thing that they're holding on to is they just can't let them. And it's...
No, but they can.
Yeah.
See, I don't think they have the tool.
Yeah.
See, here's the thing. If you're worried that people are gossiping about you, let them. Let them gossip about you. Here's why. You can't control it.
It's going to happen anyway.
Yes. And so if you can't control it, why on earth would you allow any time or energy to be wasted?
Yeah.
It's an act of self-torture. So if you are worried that people are gossiping about you, first of all, let them gossip about you.
Yeah.
Because they're going to do what they're going to do, because you cannot change what other people do. You can't control what they think. You can't control what they do. If they're going to gossip, they're going to gossip. So let them gossip. And when you say that, it's a relief, because you actually acknowledge the thing that you've been afraid of, and it's like you're allowing it without allowing it. But then don't forget, you have power.
Yeah.
Let me remind myself that I get to choose what I think about myself. I get to decide what I do and what I don't do, whether or not I respond or not. And I get to decide who I spend time with. And so the bigger question becomes, if you're busy worrying about, which means you're expending time and energy, people who are gossiping about you, why would you want to be friends with them?
Yeah.
And so now you take responsibility for your own part in chasing people that aren't treating you in a way that you deserve.
Yes.
And you recognize that the power here is in just letting people be. And when you let people be, your relationships get better, because people reveal who they are and where you stand. And then you get to choose how much time you spend or not.
Yeah.
And not everybody in your life deserves an explanation. They don't deserve a response necessarily. And so you also get to choose who you tell your story to, or who you apologize to, or how you respond to it. And that's where your power is. And I'm not saying this makes it easy, because you're probably in a situation like that going to have to say, let them. And then you're going to see them on social media and you're going to be like, should I block them? Should I not block them? Are they going to see if I do that? Should I not? Let them. Let them live their lives. And if I want to unfollow them, let me do that. Because I get to choose what comes into my space or not. And when you start to really play around with this, because one of the big pushbacks that I've gotten in the research is, what am I just going to be a doormat and let people abuse me? No, actually it's the opposite, because you're probably allowing it right now and then explaining it away.
Mm-hmm.
When you say let them, you're letting somebody's behavior speak.
Yeah.
And then you have to bring it back to yourself and say, I've got to let them reveal who they are. And if this person keeps gaslighting me or not including me, now I've got to ask myself, is this actually the relationship for me?
Mel, do you think we expect too much from people?
I do. I think everybody's really busy and life is very overwhelming. And you have no idea what's going on in other people's lives. And we've gotten to a point in today's world where if I text you, I expect Jay to respond. And if Jay doesn't respond, then I make it mean something about Jay or me. And I hate that because it doesn't give people grace. We're constantly expecting people to show up a certain way and then judging them when they don't, instead of stopping to consider that other people have lives and other people have a lot of things going on. And sometimes when people go silent on you, it has nothing to do with you. It has to do with a crazy busy period in life, or it has to do with the fact that something's going on with their family. And they're so drained at the end of the day that the last thing they want to do is talk to anybody. And so I do think we expect too much because relationships feel very... I text you, you better text me back. Now, there are rules in terms of just being courteous to people and being gracious to people. But I'm deeply concerned, Jay, about the rise of both estrangement. I'm concerned about and that's extremely immature, actually. It means you can't handle your own emotions, which is why you don't have a hard conversation about what you need or how someone's behavior is impacting you. And if you haven't had that, it's a very immature move to just cut somebody off. And so I get very worried about the labeling of people as toxic and about the ease at which people seem to just drop people. Decide what you're going to do next. But worried about the combination of people being isolated, of people spending way too much time on their phones instead of with each other, and that we've gotten very transactional with one another. And it's easy to forget that people have a lot going on. And they're not thinking about you as much as you're thinking about them. And just because you have time to text them doesn't mean they have time right now to text you back. Mm-hmm. And I guarantee you when they saw your text, they probably thought, oh my God, I love it. I got to, and then something came up.
Yeah.
And so I do worry about it, Jay. I do think we have too much of an expectation of something in return.
Yeah.
And when you start to use this theory, what you're also going to notice is this. When you start to say let them, you will notice that maybe you're the sibling that reaches out more. And it might bother you. Because when you say let them and you keep reaching out and they don't reach out, or you have a group of friends and you notice that when you stop reaching out or making the plans that you're not included in theirs, and that hurts.
Yeah.
The thing I used to do when that happened is I would make it about me. I would make it like some deficiency in me. And what I've learned using the let them theory, and really just saying let them, which detaches from the hurt, it detaches from the judgment. It reminds you that adults are allowed to live their lives. Mm-hmm. Adults are allowed to come and go in friendship. They're allowed to prioritize certain people at certain times. They're allowed to have busy periods at work. They're allowed to fall in and out of communication. And the more you let people live their lives, the better your life gets, and the more compassionate of a human being you become. And the more I've started to recognize, oh, wait, like my social life is my responsibility. If I have a group of friends where if I make the plans, everybody's included, but if I sit back, I'm never invited, then now I got to examine, am I investing in the right group of friends? Or you might also wake up and realize, well, maybe I just like really like introverted people, but I'm the party planner. Mm-hmm. And that's my role in life. Mm-hmm. And instead of you being transactional, you actually recognize the gift that it is to people.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And, it sucks that maybe your siblings get together because they live closer and they don't include you. And it does hurt. And feeling a little bit of pain like that means your mind and body is working properly.
Yes.
Right? It's a sign that you're mentally well.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean there's a sign that there's anything wrong with you. Mm-hmm. And so when you can say, let them, and then you say, let me decide what I want to do about this, you can have the conversation.
Yeah.
And you might realize that they just click and you don't have as close of a relationship. Mm-hmm. But then you get to decide how you value family. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to bring different energy or if you're going to try a little bit harder, because again, you get to choose. Yeah. And when you realize how much power you have, you see that through the way you think about it or you respond to it, you actually can shift anything for the better.
For sure.
And I'm really excited about this. I wrote this actually with my daughter who's 25, and it was an amazing experience because she was bringing a much different perspective. And when we wrote the section about how you use the let them theory with love, she started researching the breakup section, because the fact about love is people choose who and how they love, and sometimes they won't choose you. But you also get to choose who and how you love and how you're going to create it. And people forget that. And so we get to the part about when a relationship is ending. And her boyfriend of 2 years breaks up with her. And she's
while
like,
you're writing the book.
Yes. Like, this is horseshit. Like, just rip this up. I have to let him walk out the door. I have to let him leave. And this is bullshit. Like, just because when somebody that you love is grieving or going through heartbreak or struggling, you would jump in front of a car to take their pain away. And the let them theory and the experience of this book taught me that the best thing, grieve, to let her be heartbroken, to let her go through her process. You know, I think about it this way, like arm around somebody. You're not blocking and tackling. You've got your arm around somebody. But if she's on the floor sobbing, let her, because she needs to. You know, if we need to remove the photos from the family thing, because this is a 2-year-long relationship, because that is actually a huge recommendation that I make in this book, that you've got to follow a 30-day rule of 0 contact, 0 photos, 0 videos, because you're not just letting them leave. You have to
The holidays are here, full of joy, family, friends, and yes, a little hustle and bustle. That's why you need Aleve. Between cooking, shopping, and all those extra errands, aches and pains can sneak in. Aleve is here to help with long-lasting body pain relief. Don't let body pain slow you down. With up to 12 hours of body pain relief per dose, you can keep up with the season's magic and all that awaits. Pick up Aleve and get back to what really matters, making memories. Use as directed.
To unlearn the patterns of your life that were with them.
Yeah.
It's a withdrawal, like it's anything else. Yes. Yeah. And any sign of that person actually triggers the old patterns in your nervous system, and it delays your ability to move through it.
Absolutely.
And it's impossible when you're in it to just let them move on, because every part of your wiring and programming, you're going to want to check their location. You're going to want to listen to the voice memos. You're going to want to saturate yourself, because the life that you wanted is over. And you're either going to trap yourself in a life that you're no longer in by watching their life play out from afar, and you're going to keep re-triggering these patterns in your nervous system, because you're going to keep this person in your life even though they walked out the door, which is why you have to let them. And then you've got to let me do the hard part, which is I get to choose how I'm going to move through this. And the research is also really empowering. It gets better for the majority of people. 71% of the people start to feel better by 11 weeks.
That's the number, 11 weeks.
11 weeks. And you may feel better in 11 days.
What happens at 11 weeks?
What happens at 11 weeks, if you're not cyber stalking somebody, is that you've actually allowed your body to break the old patterns.
Right.
See, the reason why when you're going through a heartbreak, and heartbreak and breakups are just like death. That's what they are.
For sure.
Because you're grieving what's no longer there.
The life you had,
yes.
The life you could have had.
Yes. And aside from the 30-day rule, which is remove, like, do not look at voice memos, location, social, nothing, no photos, because it triggers everything to stay alive in you. But during those 30 days, what's going to happen is every time you wake up, you're going to feel them there because your body remembers. That doesn't mean that's a sign you should get back together.
Yeah.
That's actually a sign that you're unlearning something. Let those memories come up. Let your nervous system process this. Every time you have news in your life, you're going to want to reach out to them. Why? Because that was the pattern. That doesn't mean you should.
Yeah.
So you've got to do the let them leave and let me remind myself I'm going through this process. And every day that you do that, you're actually unlearning these patterns. And by the time you get to about 30 days, you feel less intoxicated. Another huge recommendation is do something in your bedroom, like paint a wall, move the bed, do something because you spent a lot of time there. So walking back into it is like a graveyard of your old life, and it can be very triggering. And so she did that. And the 11-week mark is important because what's happening is you're now starting to create new patterns. As you've let them leave, you're now letting me move on. You're letting me take the actions that show me that my life is moving forward. And my therapist, Ann Davin, who's the smartest human being I've ever met, she said, you know, Mel, the thing for Sawyer to ask herself is if she knew that the love of her life were literally just a couple months away, what would you do right now with this period of time? And when you think about it that way, because again, as long as you're holding on to somebody who already left, you actually are not open to meeting anybody else.
That is beautiful. That idea of what would you look like? What would you be thinking?
Yeah.
How would you behave if the love of your life was 2 months away?
Yeah, or 2 years ago, or a year away, or whatever.
It is, yeah.
See, because because when somebody leaves that you love, you think you're unlovable. You actually think you're never going to find it again. Mm-hmm. You hate yourself. That's why most of the advice about this is complete bullshit. Go love yourself? How the hell am I going to go love myself when the person I love more than anything just left me? Mm-hmm. I hate myself. I despise myself. I am terrified of the day that they're going to meet somebody.
Yeah.
I'm never going to find that again. I'm never going to have sex like that again. I'm not, like, you hate yourself. And so telling somebody to just go on a revenge diet or you gotta love yourself, it's horrible. Instead, I want you to face reality. They left. Let them. And then let me grieve. And follow my therapist, Ann Davin's advice. You have to do a 30-day detox. And if you are somebody that's been holding on to somebody that left a year ago, I guarantee you have not gone 30 days without listening to a voice memo or looking at a photo. You are keeping them alive, which is keeping you trapped in something that's dead. And your inability to let them go and let them leave and then let me accept reality and start moving forward and let me believe that the person that I am meant to meet, they are in the future. They're not in my past. And by the way, even if you kind of hold out secretly hope, it might be the person from the past. It might be, but they're not the version from back there.
And neither are you.
And neither are you. And so you have to, again, come back to where the power is. It's not in getting them back. It's not in making them jealous. Because if you focus on making that person jealous or blah, 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 where are you putting your power?
Them.
And something you can't control. You have to put your power here. And the reason why I love the 30-day rule and the 11-week mark is because it's the truth. This is going to suck. The only way to get over someone and to go through heartbreak is to go through it. There's no avoiding it. There's only delaying it.
And we delay it.
Mm-hmm. Because we don't want to accept people as they are.
Yeah.
When somebody breaks up and leaves or cheats on you, they have just revealed who they are.
For sure.
And your inability to accept it, instead of explaining it away and living in a fantasy up here, that's what's keeping you from having and creating the love you actually deserve and want in your life.
I was talking to a friend recently, and everything you're saying is just so true, and it's resonating so strongly to me. I was talking to a friend recently, and she was saying to me, I wish my friend would just be honest with me. I wish this person who's just screwed me over, just let me down, would just be honest with me rather than pretending to be my friend.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to them, they are being honest with you. Them lying is showing you their truth. That's how much they value you. Them pretending to be your friend is their truth.
Yeah.
You don't want the truth. Actually, you want them to lie to you. And you want them to be someone else. You want them to become the honest person.
Right.
But they're showing you that they're not an honest person. That is the truth.
It's true. And here's the other thing. Why are you pretending to be this person's friend?
Yeah.
And not bringing it up?
Exactly.
Why is it on them
Yeah.
to tell you the truth?
Yeah.
Let them lie to you and then come to the let me part.
Yeah.
Aren't you pretending that you're their friend if you haven't brought this up?
Mm-hmm.
And you're actually holding that in your head, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's so many applications of this.
So
Jay.
many.
It's just incredible. And the thing that I'm really, really excited about is that, the other massive thing that I think this is going to help people with is that one other way that you make people a massive problem is that you see somebody else's success or happiness or the things that they achieve in their life as somehow robbing you of yours.
Yeah.
And the thing about life is that you're never playing against people, you play with them. And somebody else's success, happiness, love, like the things that they achieve, it's in limitless supply.
Mm-hmm.
And when you wrap your brain around the fact that happiness, love, money, like all of it, limitless supply.
When a child is in the hospital, visitors come to say hello. And when visiting hours are over, they leave. But family does whatever it takes to stay. At Ronald McDonald House, we believe families shouldn't have to fight alone. So we make sure they have everything they need with a community of support, warm meals, and a place to rest. Because when a child is sick, family stays, and Ronald McDonald House stays with them. Donate today at ronaldmcdonaldhouse.org.
Limitless supply. So other people can't block your way. They actually lead the way.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you let them lead the way and you see their wins not as your losses, but you see it as an example to follow, you now stop making other people a problem and you stop using them as an excuse for why you can't do what you're capable of. Other people don't block you. You block your way.
Mm-hmm.
Allow people to lead the way. And the way that you do that is you say, let them be successful. Let them get married. Let them have the baby. Let them have the nice car because they're showing me what's possible. And the cool thing about really embracing let them in that regard is that other people also show you the formula, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
They show you exactly how to do something.
100%.
But if you're so busy going, oh, well, Jane launched a podcast and there's too many podcasts now, I can't launch a podcast. Who's blocking you?
You.
Correct. You're capable of learning to be a better player in the game of life from other people.
Yes.
So stop playing against them.
Yeah.
And let them show you the way.
Mel, why is it so hard to make friends as we get older?
There is a massive shift that happens in adult friendship when you hit 20 that nobody sees coming. The rules of friendship completely change when your 20s hit. And I'm going to explain the rules when you're little, and then we're going to talk about the rules of adult friendship. So when you're little, your entire life is organized around friendship and making it possible because you're with people your age all the time in class and sports.
So true.
You move in groups because you're on teams and you're in neighborhoods and you're always together. You also celebrate the same milestones. You're hitting the same birthdays. You're all talking about the next level of school or this thing this summer. You're watching the same movies because you're all the same age. And so there's so much synergy and relevance. And the conditions to spend a ton of time together are there. Then you get to university and you spend even more time together. And what happens when you hit your 20s, right, is that it moves from this big group sport where you just kind of expect to be around your friends all the time. You expect the group to get invited because that's what's always happened. You expect to see them all the time because you do always see them all the time. But then your 20s hit, the rules change, and what I call the great scattering happens. Everybody moves in different directions. And friendship goes from group sport to individual sport. You can no longer expect friendship. you are no longer part of a group that is expected to be invited everywhere because everybody scatters. And suddenly everybody's on different timelines. You're in different cities. You're moving in different directions. So there's no way to locate yourself inside your friend group. And the only thing that's keeping you together from your friends from you were little is a text chain that starts to go quieter and quieter and quieter as people start to focus on the people in front of them. Mm-hmm. And that brings me to two major shifts that I want you to embrace using the let them theory. Number one, you can no longer expect friendship. You have to take a way more flexible approach and a more proactive approach. You got to let people come and go. Mm-hmm. Super important. And then you got to let me take the actions to create the friendships. I got to go first. I got to be the one planning. I got to seek out new people. But there are three pillars of adult friendship based on research that are also going to help you understand that when people come and go in your life, 99% of the time, it's not personal. And you actually haven't lost them as a friend. Mm. One of the three pillars is missing. So the three things that need to be required to have a friendship happen are the same three things that were around all the time when you were a kid. Number one, proximity. Proximity matters tremendously. Proximity means who are you actually physically next to? In fact, they've done research, Jay. If you and I were in a dorm and we lived across the hall, I don't remember the percentages exactly, but it's like 90% chance we're going to be friends.
Interesting.
The poor person at the end of the hallway, 10% chance that we're going to be friends with them because of proximity. Even a matter of 50 feet makes a difference. And so when you were little, you were in proximity to people your age all the time.
All day. Exactly.
The research also shows that to have, as an adult, a kind of casual friend, you need to spend approximately 70 hours with somebody. Mm-hmm. To have a close friend, 200 hours. Mm-hmm. So when you're an adult, that creates a big problem. Because who are you spending all your time with once you're 20? The American Times study shows that it's with people you work with. So why aren't we best friends with people at work? Because you have proximity and you're spending a lot of time together. But here's the thing, timing. When you were little, you were in the same timing of life with everybody.
Yeah.
When you hit your 20s and it's now individual, everybody's on different timelines. Some of your friends are getting married. Some are going to graduate school. Some are now pursuing jobs. Other people are moving out of the city, into the city. Everybody's timing is now different. And this also explains why you're almost never best friends with people at work, because the timing is off. You're sitting next to people that are in very different times of their life. You may like them a lot, and you may be friends, but you never spend time outside of work because they're at home with their family, and you're going out with your buddies your age on the weekends. And then that brings me to the third thing that needs to be present for a friendship to truly click, and that's energy. And the thing about energy is it changes. And you can have fantastic energy with somebody, and then if you decide you're not drinking anymore, the energy's off.
Yeah.
If you decide to get really focused on fitness, the energy's off. If you have very different political beliefs, the energy's off. It's not personal. It's one of these three pillars, and it has helped me so profoundly, Jay, to realize that people come and go, and it's a beautiful thing, and you should let them. And you should really, if you have a friendship that starts to dissipate, right? Ask yourself, before you blame them or you blame you, are any one of these three pillars missing? Are we not near each other anymore? Is the timing of our lives off? Is there just something about the energy that hasn't clicked? Because you can't force those things. But what I've found is that when you recognize that those are really important factors to your connection to someone else, that if a friendship starts to fade, for me, it's so easy to say, let them. And I don't wish anybody bad. I literally wish people well. Because the other thing that I've learned, and, you know, being 56, I've had a lot of friends come and go in different phases of my life, that you would be startled by how many people from your past that you no longer, quote, consider friends because you haven't seen them in a very long time or things just got weird. If you actually called them, they'd pick up the phone.
They would.
If you texted them, the research shows that when you get a surprise text from somebody that you haven't heard from in a long time, the amount of joy that you feel. And so I want you to consider, if you're very lonely right now, that there's actually probably hundreds of people from your past that still consider you a friend. Mm-hmm. And if you take the approach that I'm talking about, which is friendship is your responsibility. You need to go first. Let me create the friendship and the connection that I want. And you can start by literally taking a look through your them a text, and you will be startled by what comes back because they're there. They haven't actually gone anywhere. The connection is still there. And oftentimes, even if you've had somebody where something's been off, again, let them and wish them well. And there will be a time, I promise you, where the timing or proximity or energy comes back around again.
Yeah, and often you're so right. As I'm listening to you talk, I'm just thinking of how conscious we have to be with all of our relationships, the ones that matter to us, the ones that we want to invest in. And it's what you said. We were actually dealt such a tough card in the fact that basically from the moment you joined school at 4 till the moment you were 21, if you went to college, you basically didn't have to make really any major decisions or think about the next step. Because you went from 7th grade to 8th grade to 9th grade to whatever it is.
Right.
And so then all of a sudden you're in the world at 21.
Yeah.
Or 18 if you didn't go to college, and you all of a sudden now have to figure out what to do for the next 50, 60 years.
Yeah. All structure of your life just evaporates.
Just disappears.
It's the hardest decade of your life.
There is no structure, and it makes no sense. And as I'm hearing you talk, it sounds like to me that it would have been harder to watch your daughter have to practice the let them theory than it is for you to practice the let them theory.
Yes.
When she was going through her breakup. Would you say that's in your deep vicinity of people that you're close with, the hardest way you've had to practice the let them theory?
Yes, the hardest way is when you recognize the potential in somebody and you see them struggling. And when you recognize that somebody that you love deeply is in pain. When you're saying let them, you're not abandoning somebody. You're actually recognizing their ability to meet these difficult moments in their life with you by their side. Okay. And I think, when I think about supporting versus enabling, because the more you kind of step in and rescue people from their feelings or from the consequences of their decisions or their inaction, the more people continue to drown in their problems. I really believe that.
I do too. I really believe that.
And it's a very, very difficult balance because you're going to hit your frustration and rock bottom and worry with somebody before they do. And somebody said something in the addiction community, I can't remember who said this, but it just is so true that somebody only gets sober when getting drunk is harder than facing the thing that they don't want to face. And the same is true with anything. Like really motivating yourself to get in better shape. Recognizing that you have a pattern of dating people that are emotionally abusive and taking a break and really digging deep into the issue that keeps coming up for you. That's really hard. That's why we avoid it. And so when you see somebody that you know is capable or who deserves better, wanting that for them is a form of loving them. Like you should want the people in your life that you care about to be doing better. And I hate seeing somebody with so much potential squandering it. But again, I'm going to come back to something that I learned from Dr. Stewart at Mass General Hospital. People do well when they can. And I want you to start to assume that if somebody in your life is not doing well, or if they're going through a challenge, there is a skill that's missing, or there is emotion that needs to be processed, or there is pain that needs to be felt before they can galvanize the ability to do the very difficult work to change. And in the case of watching my daughter go through this heartbreak, I mean, I literally found myself, Jay, wanting to text her boyfriend, her boyfriend's mother, like, hey, maybe we can, like, just because I want to fix it. But when you step in and fix it, you literally demean someone else. Because I do know that she has the ability to move through this. And so the way that I love thinking about support is this way. The next time you have somebody in your life who is truly struggling, whether it's in school or in relationships or with an addiction, I want you to think, how can I create an environment that supports their healing.
I hear you are now a foreman.
Not stepping in and doing it. It's rarely an issue of will. Like it's not willpower for people or the desire. It's actually more about skill and the ability and need to process things and do it on their own timeline. Right? So how can you create an environment for that to happen? And for me, it meant removing any imagery. It meant letting her stay up in her bedroom and every once in a while knocking on the door and being like, do you need anything? And allowing her to be in her pajamas for 4 days and be in a depressive state, because guess what? Being in a depressive state and falling on the floor and crying, it's a sign she's mentally well.
You must be compassionate.
That's what you do. It's a sign that you're okay. Yes. It would be scary if she wasn't feeling anything. And then when you're ready, you kind of put your arm around people and say, how can you do this? Like when she was born, actually, I had severe postpartum depression, Jay. I had a very traumatic delivery, lost a lot of blood, and I just was so out of it that they put me on these drugs that turned me into a zombie. I couldn't breastfeed her. I wasn't allowed to be alone with her. I missed the first 3.5 months of her life. And nobody asked me if I needed help. They showed up and created an environment where I could get better. I had my parents drive out and just stay, and they just did laundry, and they cleaned, and they did what needed to be done. And people who are struggling, they don't even know what they need. And so don't ask somebody what you can do. Find something you can do. Show up with depression so the sunlight comes in. Create a playlist for somebody. Pick them up. Like, don't say you want to meet at yoga. Say, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to come over on Saturday and pick you up, and we're going to go to that yoga class. Or I'm going to come over on Sunday and I'm going to watch the kids and the dog, so you can go to the park and read a book for 2 hours. Like, this is an issue I had with our son. He didn't seem motivated. So I would constantly be like, why aren't you motivated? Why don't you study? Why are you doing this? It didn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
No. And so I finally,
I'm really stressed with that.
I'm sorry,
I'm stressed.
I'm sorry, I'm questioning you. And then you're going to ask an open-ended question. How do you feel about this issue? And it doesn't matter what they say, because you're probably asking for the first time how they actually feel about the issue. And then you're going to ask a really important question. You're going to ask, well, what would you like to do about it, if anything? And their answers don't matter, because what you're doing by apologizing is you're removing the pressure that you're with. And now by asking these questions, and I like to do this in a car, Jay, because they're trapped. And because you're both looking ahead, so it's not as confrontational. And there's something in the science around forward ambulation and the movement that actually opens up your thinking. And then you ask, what do you want to do about it, if anything? And what happens is you're now fail. It's not like people are trying to be depressed. It's not like people are trying to be very unhealthy. People know when they're letting themselves go. You don't need to remind them. But have you ever asked them, what would you like to do about this, if anything? What happens in that and where they actually are rises up. That is the organizing, intrinsic motivation that somebody needs to want to do better. And then you got to do B, back off. That's the hard part. Let me shut up. Let me not roll my eyes. And people need space to have it be their idea. And I'll give you a quick example. I used to be the kind of person that would eat lunch and work on my computer. I'm like tapping on my computer, shoving a sandwich down my throat, right? And there would be this colleague that would stand up and go for a walk most days. And every time she came back, she'd have a smile on her face, and she'd take her earbuds off, and she'd then get back to work. And this would go on for weeks. And then finally one day, Jay, I look up outside, and it's a nice day, and I think I'm going to go for a walk. Now here's the interesting thing. I didn't credit her. I thought it was my idea. Her example influenced my desire to do it. The people that you are close to need enough distance from you. This is why you have to back off. For that friction and that stirring to sit with them. In order for them to feel safe to be able to take the step forward. And then you better keep backing off, because you do not want to be like, oh, I saw you didn't matter in your tent. Like, that's going to, no. And so you keep going with them. And then the C part is any small thing, you celebrate it in a non-passive-aggressive way. And you actually model the change. You can't ask somebody to stop drinking while you're pouring yourself a glass of wine.
For sure.
You can't ask somebody else to get healthy if you're sitting on the couch eating chips. So you model the change and make it easy, just like my colleague did with the walk. And just like you and I constantly buy things online because it looks so easy and fun, your behavior and backing off and that tension inside them actually creates the space for somebody to truly want to change. And that's how it's done.
Now, I want to thank you so deeply for writing this book, the Let Them Theory, a life-changing tool that millions of people can't stop talking about. It's true. Mel, I've learned so much from you today, honestly, and you've connected so many dots for me. I know I'm going to be recommending this book to so many people in my life because I really believe it's the thing that's holding them back. I want to thank you for writing it. I want to thank you for pouring your heart into it. Thank you for just showing up so brilliantly and emphatically today, as you always do. And I'm just so grateful to call you a friend and grateful to know you in this journey called life, and genuinely so thankful that you're constantly trying to find really simple, practical tools that all of us can apply in our lives to make it easier and make it a bit more livable, but also thrive. So thank you so much, truly.
Well, I'm not as smart as you, Jay, so I can't do the intellectual stuff. I got to find simple things. Well, you know, I have to tell you, I really appreciate simple and I truly accept and feel how heartfelt and honest those words are. Because this is, I think, my legacy. I do. I think that this is the thing I was supposed to figure out and leave the world. I believe it too. Thank you. The best.
If you love this episode, you'll love my interview with Dr. Gabor Mate on understanding your trauma and how to heal emotional wounds to start moving on from the past.
Everything in nature grows only where it's vulnerable. So a tree doesn't grow where it's hard and thick, does it? It grows where it's soft and green and vulnerable.
This is freaking genius. I've taught it to millions of people. It's curing people's anxiety.
There is nobody like Mel Robbins. There is nobody.
If I hadn't done what I did that morning, my life would have gone in a totally different direction. I'd probably be divorced. I'd probably be an alcoholic. My family would be torn apart. No idea what I'd be doing for a living or where I would be. I finally had the experience of being in my body and being safe and being okay. And I hadn't had that in a really long time. So you asked me in the beginning, kind of, what is it that created all of this insight or this drive to figure it out? And I think I just figured it out. You just fucking did it.
They call her the female Tony Robbins, but she's so much more than that. She's one of the most incredibly vulnerable, honest, introspective, wise people I have ever met in my entire life. And she's written 3 best-selling books that offer a very simple solution to have a transformative impact on your entire life. I first found out about Mel Robbins some 7 years ago when I watched a video of her talking about how to motivate yourself every single day. And when my team told me that she was coming to London for a short trip, I said, we have to get her on this podcast. There is nobody like Mel Robbins. There is nobody. I've never seen Mel Robbins cry during an interview before. But in this podcast, it happens again. We have an epiphany. Mel removes her glasses. She begins to cry. And it's an incredibly touching moment. I think for a lot of you, this is going to be the favorite podcast on this channel that you've ever listened to. So without further ado, I'm Stephen Bartlett, and this is the Diary of a CEO. I hope nobody's listening, but if you are, then please keep this to yourself. before we started recording, I said a lot of nice things about you just a few seconds ago. And I talked about how sort of introspective you are, how much you've achieved, your remarkable ability to speak about ideas and things you've discovered in yourself. You really are a standout individual. And so whenever I meet someone that I consider to be a really standout individual, it always begs the question to me, having a small background in like childhood psychology, what is it? What was the cauldron in which Mel was sculpted that made you the person you are today at the very start of your life?
You are too much pressure for us.
I guess that I'm trying to think about, like, there's no defining.
Me and my siblings.
Because
me and
I had great parents who did the best that they could with what they were handed in terms of their own childhoods and patterns and thinking. And tiny. And that was in 4th grade. I was at a family kind of ski trip thing, and in the middle of the night, I woke up and one of the kids was on top of me. And, yeah, like on top of me, molesting me. We're going here, like, fast. I mean, you asked, like, what was the thing, and this was, like, the first. I did not remember that this had happened until I was in my late 20s. And if you look at the spectrum of what can happen to somebody in terms of sexual abuse, which unfortunately is very common experience for people, this was a very mild experience. Like, it wasn't anybody that I knew. It was a one-off. It was another kid. So clearly something was happening to this kid in their life. It wasn't scary. It was confusing. But I was awoken from a state of sleep. And I immediately felt and knew that something was wrong.
Yes, Mom.
And it's my first experience in my life of what psychologists call disassociating. I literally left my body. And I rolled over, and I don't even remember how it ended because I wasn't in my body to be there. And the very next morning, I'll never forget this. I hid underneath the sheets because it was a big bunk room, and all the kids left to go downstairs to get ready to go skiing. And I remember waiting until I thought it was quiet. I threw the comforter off. I went down these steep stairs. I turned the corner, and there was my mom. And she was cooking breakfast with some of the other moms. And she turned around and she said, "How'd you sleep?" And I immediately, Stephen, wanted to tell her. And out of the corner of my eye, I saw that. And in that moment, split-second child brain, I froze. And as much as I wanted to tell my mom, and I knew exactly what she did. I mean, she grew up on a farm. She had a spatula in her hand. She would have hit that kid into next week. But I didn't know what the kid was going to do.
Welcome to Spectrum.
And in that moment, I lied. And I said, fine. And the day went on, and nothing happened. And I believe whether it is a 30-year-long struggle with anxiety or a tendency to disassociate or the fact that I was chronically lying when I was younger, in any moment when I felt uncertain, I had no idea how that singular moment set me on a course that would last decades before I realized that all of these patterns of behavior that I was struggling with, I didn't know why I lied. I didn't know why I felt so uncomfortable if I couldn't predict somebody's reaction. I couldn't understand why I would leave my body so many times. I couldn't understand why I had very few memories from my childhood. It wasn't until I started to understand human behavior, the way the brain learns patterns, the way that you need and can break patterns and replace patterns and learn new patterns, that I began this journey that I've been on for the past 10 years of understanding my own breakdowns, my own heartaches, my own struggles, and sharing what I'm learning with anybody who will listen. How's that for an answer?
Sorry, I'm having.
Did you ever tell anybody? When did you first tell someone about that incident?
Well, I never told anybody because it's like I forgot about it in that moment. Like I just suppressed what had happened. And there were lots of times in my life when I was a teenager, when I was in college, when I was in law school, particularly in law school because my anxiety just came to a huge crescendo in law school. Just completely out of control with my thoughts, with how I felt in my body. I had not been diagnosed yet with anxiety or anxiety disorder and had not been medicated, did not even know anxiety was a thing. So this would have been 1992 through 1994.
All right.
And I didn't even remember it. And so I didn't even remember this incident until I was 28 years old. And I was sitting in like kind of one of these life improvement seminars where you're in a windowless conference room and everyone's got a name tag on. And there's a person up front and this woman stands up in a totally different direction.
Excuse me, sir. My name is Joyce Nyanga. My provider is Spectrum, and I want to add another line.
I just want to make sure that we're looking at cell phone services out here.
Yes.
And what's your zip code itself now?
27537. You're welcome, sir.
Yeah, locked phone from Cricket.
Okay, the line which I want to add, it's in the phone with the different with the
Cricket wireless.
With the Cricket wireless, and the phone is locked. So that's another thing that I would want to ask you. I mean, how do we go about that? Because I want to switch from that Spectrum.
From Cricket to Spectrum.
From Cricket to my line. Okay, sir. You cannot be focused. Constructively.
Mom, relax. Wait,
I'm asking you serious.
Relax, Mom.
I'm not going to relax, Mom.
Relax.
Is this how you are messed?
I'm not messed.
Can't even believe
Mom, this Monday, I'm positive. Can you be positive, Mama?
Okay, sir. I'm here. Just take your time, sir.
Can you be more positive?
Yeah, I swear we can wait. You have to accept yourself.
I don't want Jackie Mapema. Very early in the morning.
I'm telling you the truth,
Mom, can you relax? I don't have a schedule like you. Give me a new line.
My name is Joyce. I need to add a number to my phone. My provider is, of course, Spectrum, but I have another phone that my carrier was
Cricket Wireless.
Cricket Wireless. I want to move and put my number on, with the, together, in Spectrum.
Sure, of course. I'd be more than happy to help you with that, Joyce. Can I have your address so I can find your account?
84
Thank you for advice, Mom. Thank you.
We'd be divorced. I'd probably be an alcoholic. My family would be torn apart. No idea what I'd be doing for a living or where I would be. I finally had the experience of being in my body and being safe and being okay. And I hadn't had that in a really long time. So you asked me in the beginning, kind of, what is it that created all of this insight or this drive to figure it out? And I think I just figured it out. You just fucking did it.
They call her the female Tony Robbins, but she's so much more than that. She's one of the most incredibly vulnerable, honest, introspective, wise people I have ever met in my entire life. And she's written 3 best-selling books that offer a very simple solution to have a transformative impact on your entire life. I first found out about Mel Robbins some 7 years ago when I watched a video of her talking about how to motivate yourself every single day. And when my team told me that she was coming to London for a short trip, I said, we have to get her on this podcast. There is nobody like Mel Robbins. There is nobody. I've never seen Mel Robbins cry during an interview before. But in this podcast, it happens again. We have an epiphany. Mel removes her glasses. She begins to cry. And it's an incredibly touching moment. I think for a lot of you, this is going to be the favorite podcast on this channel that you've ever listened to. So without further ado, I'm Stephen Bartlett, and this is the Diary of a CEO.
Yes?
I hope nobody's listening, but if you are, then please keep this to yourself.
Okay.
Before we started recording, I said a lot of nice things about you just a few seconds ago, and I talked about how sort of introspective you are, how much you've achieved, your remarkable ability to speak about ideas and things you've discovered in yourself. You really are a standout individual. And so whenever I meet someone that I consider to be a really standout individual, it always begs the question to me, having a small background in like childhood psychology, what is it? What was the cauldron in which Mel was sculpted that made you the person you are today at the very start of your life?
I guess that I'm trying to think about, like, there's no defining moment. Because I had great parents who did the best that they could with what they were handed in terms of their own childhoods and patterns and thinking. And I grew up in a tiny little town where nothing really happened. But one thing did happen, and that was in the 4th grade. I was at a family kind of ski trip thing, and in the middle of the night, I woke up and one of the kids was on top of me. And, yeah, like on top of me, molesting me. We're going here, like, fast. I mean, you asked, like, what was the thing, and this is, like, the first thing that popped into mind. And it was interesting because I didn't remember the experience for a very long time. I did not remember that this had happened until I was in my late 20s. And if you look at the spectrum of what can happen to somebody in terms of sexual abuse, which unfortunately is very common experience for people, this was a very mild experience. Like, it wasn't anybody that I knew. It was a one-off. It was another kid. So clearly something was happening to this kid in their life. It wasn't scary. It was confusing. But I was awoken from a state of sleep. And I immediately felt and knew that something was wrong. And it's my first experience in my life of what psychologists call disassociating. I literally left my body and I rolled over, and I don't even remember how it ended because I wasn't in my body to be there. And the very next morning, I'll never forget this. I hid underneath the sheets because it was a big bunk room and all the kids left to go downstairs to get ready to go skiing. And I remember waiting until I thought it was quiet. I threw the comforter off. I went down these steep stairs. I turned the corner, and there was my mom. And she was cooking breakfast with some of the other moms. And she turned around and she said, "How'd you sleep?" And I immediately, Stephen wanted to tell her. And out of the corner of my eye, I saw the kid.
coming home. Relax.
And in that moment, split-second child brain, I froze. And as
My
much as I
father
wanted
is
to tell my
coming
mom, and I
home.
knew
Now
exactly
I
what she
have
did.
a dream
I mean, she
from
grew up on a
God,
farm.
okay?
She had a spatula in her
We
hand.
were
She
in
would have hit
Kenya,
that
we
kid
were
in
in
the next
Nairobi,
week.
Mamangina Street. My
But I
father
didn't
has
know
to
what
come
the kid
home. There's
was
no
gonna
option.
And in that moment, and I said, fine. And the day went on, and nothing happened. And I believe whether it is a 30-year-long struggle with anxiety or a tendency to disassociate or the fact that I was chronically lying when I was younger, in any moment when I felt uncertain, I had no idea how that singular moment set me on a course that would last decades before I realized that all of these patterns of behavior that I was struggling with, I didn't know why I lied. I didn't know why I felt so uncomfortable if I couldn't predict somebody's reaction. I couldn't understand why I would leave my body so many times. I couldn't understand why I had very few memories from my childhood. It wasn't until I started to understand human behavior, the way the brain learns patterns, the way that you need and can break patterns and replace patterns and learn new patterns, that I began this journey that I've been on for the past 10 years of understanding my own breakdowns, my own heartaches, my own struggles, and sharing what I'm learning with anybody who will listen. How's that for an answer?
Did you ever tell anybody? When did you first tell someone about that incident?
Well, I never told anybody because it's like I forgot about it in that moment. Like I just suppressed what had happened. And there were lots of times in